Good morning. We want to welcome you this morning to the Drainage District Board of Directors meeting for today, January the 22nd, 2013. The entire court being present, we have a quorum. Under open forum, we have two presenters. First one is James Carlson.
Thank you very much for letting me appear before you. I'm not a public speaker. My name is James B. Carlson, Carlson Farms, and I'm speaking on my behalf of I and my sisters. The reason I am here,
Could you speak a little clearer or louder into that microphone, sir?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
My name is Carlson. I'm here on my sister's behalf and me. I've seen 4 or 5 maps. One of them was in the City Hall on this reservoir. This is our property north of La Villa. And I'm just trying to get an update of where we are. I have people calling me, my neighbors. We're trying to make plans for the future sugarcane. We just are trying to get an idea of a time frame on this reservoir project. Like I said, I have other people calling me, other farmers. We're really not crazy about this. It's nice and quiet out there, but we're also realists that that's going to be progress. The whole valley probably in 10 years is going to be all cement and asphalt. But we really don't know the time frame or the changes or who do we go see and talk to. Denenbaum's in this, but I understand they've possibility got another engineer. And I would just kind of like to hear some input of what's going on in this reservoir because it's smack dab in the middle of this. That's why I'm here. At the pavilion, I know Judge Garcia was there, and Mr. Cuellar's predecessor was there, and Representative Hinojosa was there, Ruben. And so it seems like a lot of people know a lot of things, but us, and it's kind of in the middle of it, so that's why I'm here.
All right, Jaime. We can't get involved in a question and answer session at this in an open forum, but if you'll talk to that young man that's walking there in the back, and he'll communicate with Mr. Garza, and let's try to see if we can address your concerns.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so thank you. Frank Travers.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Just briefly, I'll ask a question that I hope will be answered in the workshop, which will be coming up. I've asked this several times. The reason I'm asking is this information that I want to give you. Published in the press in San Francisco, May 2nd of 2012, last year, is this article. The Sonoma Marin District has sold $199 million in bonds. The sale, which closed Tuesday, will raise $171 million that can be used by the agency. The remainder, which is $28 million, is committed to covering the costs of the sale. In the workshops talking about the bond, I raised that question several times. It was never addressed. I'm hoping you commissioners have always treated me so politely and paid attention will hopefully make this question a public matter, not an answer for me, but I think the public will also want to know what's it going to cost or what are you going to have to work with when you're through with this bond issue. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Our consent agenda, any concerns?
No concerns, Judge.
Move for approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4.
Item 4, a presentation for discussion, consideration, and action in connection with the option for Drainage District Number 1 to continue to participate in the procurement process for selection of the bank depository and/or remittance process, lockbox bank, or other options available to Hidalgo County under Texas Local Government Code Chapter 116, or in the alternative. Basically, Commissioners, we would like to go and continue working with Hidalgo County. I believe y'all are going through the process of the depository selection, so we would just piggyback, and that would be my recommendation for the board's consideration.
You need action on that? Nope.
I would recommend action for us just to piggyback with whatever the county's going to do.
Second.
All right. And the motion would be that we proceed and go with the same bank depository that the county.
The lockbox, yes, sir.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And in doing so, we really do not need to do B, because that way we would not be going out ourselves, so we're just going to be piggybacking on whatever the county does.
All right, item 5.
Item 5, extension of management consulting agreement between Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1 and Intake Corporation for an additional one-year term as provided in the existing agreement. I made this presentation to the board last week. I was asked to bring it back again this week. I have it on the board for consideration on possibly extending 1 year on my existing contract as it's stipulated in the agreement.
Godfrey, for the sake of misconceptions from the last meeting to this meeting.
Yes, sir.
I know the judge has been at it, so have I with your office to clearly identify what we're talking about. Obviously, you're at the last portion of your existing contract where we have a 1 year option to extend. In there, there's compensation. Can you just identify the compensation within that contract?
Sure. Basically, the compensation in the contract is a two-part. One of them is the regular salary that I make from the district, which is basically $9,500 per month, $666 per month for my vehicle, and $100 per month for the use of the cell phone. These are inclusive of me carrying any insurance, for me carrying my retirement, medical insurance, and everything. That is a compensation that I have as a standard rate. The additional item is tied in to what we called the Hidalgo County Master Drainage System Phase 2, which was a bond issue that was done back in 2006, that was tied in with a 1.5% of whatever construction was done. Did not include any land acquisition, did not include any of those items. But my agreement would extend the existing contract that we have for 1 year, which is not tied in to the existing bond issue that's presently being considered. There is one project that is tied with that, which is the Raymondville Drain. The Raymondville Drain, however, is a 10-year, 15-year long-term project. We are not scheduled to receive any environmental clearance till April of 2014.
Which will be beyond the...
Which will be beyond the 1 year extension if the board considers it. So my contract is basically tied in with the old bond issue that we've got probably about 95% about completed in there. Some of the projects that are in there were taken out, which are being funded through the GLO, like the Peñitas Drain, the La Villa, which is the East Lateral, which are separate funding now that are not tied in to this. There's another project that was the Monte Cristo Drain that during your previous commissioner, that was taken out because Commissioner Garza decided to do the retention ponds or the detention ponds. So a lot of the projects are either completed or about to be finished up on the old bond issue that we have that my contract is tied in.
Okay, I've heard enough. Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Since it doesn't, and I'm in favor of extending it, but since it doesn't make any difference and to avoid any confusion or any concerns on the part of anybody, would you be agreeable to just removing that portion of that 1.5%?
I have no problem, Judge, because that's if the board wishes, but I will not be managing any projects that are out there. And again, as of the February 15th, we can cut it off there. That's when my contract ends. I do recommend the board that starts looking at what you want to do in the future, but the 1.5 is tied into the old bond referendum, and I would like to consider finishing that. But that's just my comment to the board.
What were you going to say, Steve?
What I was going to say is this is an extension of the contract, and it would have to be extended on the same terms and conditions unless you go back and amend and extend. So you can't just cut it out. It'd take another document to amend the contract and then extend it.
Mr. Gotts is agreeable. Can we just now amend and extend at this point?
Then we have to bring back a...
What about all the outgoing contracts that are in process right now?
Again, I would like for the board to consider also leaving it the way it is if y'all don't have an issue with it. Again, we're at the tail end of the project. I don't see the major dollars associated with it because, again, the Raymondville Drain is going to be coming after my term is done. So, again, whichever way the board wishes to go on it.
So
But again,
Godfrey, during this 1 year, the only projects that will apply, will be applicable are which ones?
the only one that's open right now, Judge, is basically the Rainville Drain, and again, there's no construction going to take place, so that's going to be.
Right, so that won't apply.
The other one that we're looking at might be the Jackson Road Drain that we have to put a couple of culvert crossings in, and I believe that's it.
Well, in that case, well, we've already agreed to compensate you in that rate under the original contract, so you're just wrapping up those projects.
That is correct, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, Commissioner, we don't have anything under closed session, but we do have a workshop that the board has requested. We do have our financial advisors here to make a presentation.
All right, that'll be at the workshop, but let's, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Do you have a copy of the workshop, Judge?
Let me see. Thank you. At this time, we're going to be convening, pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, a workshop of the Drainage District Board of Directors. The entire court being present, we have a quorum. And the first item of business is a presentation by First Southwest.
Yes, Judge, Commissioners, we have a presentation and discussion by First Southwest, Mr. Chris Vela, Financial Advisor, and Mr. Chuy Ramirez, Bond Counsel, regarding the upcoming bond sale. First Southwest had come and made a presentation a couple of weeks ago to y'all. There was some discussion of different financing programs. They have cleared up the financing program to present to this board. We are scheduled to have a phone conference with the rating agencies Thursday regarding this issuance. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Chuy Ramirez and Chris Vela for a presentation for the board.
Good morning. My name is Chris Vela with First Southwest Company, Financial Advisors to the Drainage District. My colleague Ann Berger could not be here today, so she sent her, wanted to tell you that we'll be here at the next meeting. I'd like to start the presentation by, we've handed a presentation to you, an updated presentation, and start looking at the market update on tab 1. The first slide that you have on page 3 is a slide of the bond buyer geo index. And if you look at the bottom, the bullet points that we have provided, it kind of explains what that index does. And what that index does, it tracks bonds maturing in 20 years, which is very similar to what we're doing with the district. And that the average ratings are A, AA, 2, and AA, which are similar to the district ratings. And what we want to point your attention to is that the lowest rate since 1965 on municipal tax-exempt rates of this nature and of this rating were done back in 65, which also occurred in the middle of December, 12/6 of 12. So a little bit over a month ago. The next slide on page 4 is a similar index, but it's the municipal market data index, and that's on a AAA. And as you can see, what has happened to the market is we hit the lowest point in the middle of December. Then with the things that were going on at the national level and the uncertainty the first week in January, they kind of rose. And then the second week in January, they started also trailing down. So as of today, we're back down to the levels that we wanted to, that we are very close. We were at a 360 the first week. We're down to a 353 this week, and the lowest was a 327. So we're within that trading range that we speak about. On page 5, you have the U.S. Treasury yields, and again, the bullet points on the bottom that explain what those things are and those rates are. But what's really important, if you look at the current rates, which are in blue, the 1 month ago, and the 1 year ago. And you can see that these rates are almost together. And if you go to the little table, you'll understand why they're within basis points of each other. Now, the important thing to understand about the Treasury is what happens with the flight of quality, and that's what's happening at the European theater and the drive to purchase this kind of debt in the United States, which seem to be very stable. The next slide is the Fed funds, and you can see where it's at. Everybody understands what the Fed funds rate is, but you can see at the very bottom where it's been stable. And the only thing that has changed is the policy that came out on the 12th of December, where the Fed indicated a change in monetary policy is expected once the unemployment rate below 6.5 and our future inflation expectations rise above 2.5. You recall that prior to this statement, they were calling that they wouldn't raise them until such and such a date in the future. So they modified it a little bit in terms of their policy statement. Now, tab 2 is starting with the slide on page 8, is the historical assessed valuation of the district going back to 2001. And if you notice, from 2001 to approximately 2010, the district and Hidalgo County was experiencing a very rapid growth in assessed valuation to the tune of approximately an average of 9.1% between those years, 01 and 10. But if you start looking at the last 3 years, in 11, 12, and 13, you can see that the growth has been very, very, very slow. And we've got about $500 million growth in those 3-year period. So that's the situation that we have there with the assessed valuation. Whereas before you had a very steep ascending rate, now you're almost at a flat. The next slide on page 9 is the tax rate in your existing unlimited debt history. The blue is your operating tax rate, the red is your debt service tax rate, and the green line, along with the numbers, the balances there, are the balances at the end of each fiscal year in the principal amount that you owe or you have outstanding for all of the outstanding bonds, not what you're considering to issue, but all of the outstanding debt. So you can see that at the end of fiscal year 13, you'll be looking at about 86.4. Now, the next slide on page 10 is also important because if you start looking at year 12, this particular slide shows your existing debt in dollars that you pay on an annual basis. And as you can see, between 12, 13, and even going on into next year, you have slight increments between $325,000, $234,000 that the debt increases. So that also accounts for a component in your tax rate that must be set. The next tab is tab 3, which is a capital improvement program summary. The voters authorized overwhelmingly by 75%, as I understand, a total packet of 184. There was at this point in time, what is currently considered for sale is the $84 million or the phase 1. Now, one of the things that must be understood is, and Mr. Ramirez is here to explain that, is that the district is restricted by law to sell these bonds on a competitive basis. So that means that competitive bids must be taken on the day of the sale and approved by the board as well.
Approved on that same date?
On that same day, sir. Yes, sir. So what we will do on that day, another associate of ours, Mr. Ayala and Ms. Berger will be here, and we will be taking bids in the annex next door, and with all the transparency in the world, and with your staff present, and then we will bring back, after we analyze them and put them all back together, come back with a recommendation for your approval. Now, the next slide is all of the alternatives that were on page 13 that we considered in analyzing how to structure, and this is this is the conversation that we had the last time, or the discussion that we had the last time. We went ahead and expanded some other, some longer maturities so that the board members could understand the impact. What we're looking at, based on your credit and based on your outstanding debt, that if you start looking at the 20-year level, you can see that you have a tax rate, an existing tax rate on your debt, the current debt of a little under 3 pennies, 2.96. Now, going back to the slide where I showed you the increase from one year to the other, that's what it would take based on this year's value and 93%, what it would take to amortize that small increment as well. And then the next impact is the 84 million, which would take a little under 2.40 pennies or 2.38. And on the very bottom, you can see the impact per value of a home of 50, 86, 100, 125 on each one of those alternatives, whether it be annually or monthly. So you can see that the impacts in some cases are rather small. So at this point in time, what we're looking at is the 20-year level debt as being one of the most efficient debt service alternative for the district in terms of total debt service. If you go to the total interest cost row, which is like the fourth row, you can see that the total interest cost projected, obviously, is 42,161. When you do the wrap, you're looking at 52, or approximately $10 million more, because you're deferring principal to the latter years. And when you start adding more term on the level debt for 25, it rises to 57, and 60 for the wrap, and so on for the 30. And you can also see right above that what your interest costs would be associated with each one of those alternatives. Yes, Commissioner?
You're looking at page 13.
Yes, sir.
What's the question, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no question.
Okay, sir. Thank you. On the next page, on page 14, we went ahead and for discussion purposes.
Before you leave that page
Yes, sir.
13, what you're telling us in a 20-year wrap, we're going to save about 10 million?
It's gonna cost you 10 million more. The wrap. The level will cost you 10 million less.
I'm sorry, we're going to save about 10 million on the 20-year level.
Correct.
And the difference is that the tax rate would be how much higher?
Between the wrap and the level
Yes.
would be if you go to that row there where it says 0.0238, that would be for the 84 million alone. And
Hold on, where is that at?
where it says tax impact of Series 13 in fiscal 14 at 93% collections.
Okay.
That's the difference. The wrap would cost you 2 cents, and the level would cost you 2.38.
So it would be a total of almost 5 points.
Yeah, when you start adding your existing, the increment,
Yeah.
and the proposed debt, it's a little bit over 5 cents.
And it's still in line with what we told the public as to what our tax rate was going to be increasing by?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're looking
About
at
2.2 pennies.
basing this on 94% collection.
93.
93. And the history shows what?
95. We're showing from 201 to 211, right at 95%, and in this past year, it was 93%.
Yeah. Just for the drainage district, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But now, current collections, the percentages are based on current collections, not total collections. When you start talking about total collections, you bring in the penalties and the interest and the other things that you're talking about.
That's why you're recommending the 20-year level.
That is correct.
Okay.
Moving on to page 14, for discussion purposes and academic purposes, I guess, we wanted to have a discussion. I know we talked a little bit about the wrap, and We throw, a lot of times we throw around these terms, but I wanted to delineate to you what the differences are in structure, in interest costs, in aggregate debt, average life, and tax rate impact. And on tab 4 are the actual runs on spreadsheets for each one of the alternatives that we presented to you as backup.
It would be page 16.
So basically, we're looking at the level versus the wraparound. And the level seems to be the better option,
Yes, sir.
¿verdad?
Yes. How much of the payments, what column is that?
Okay, sir. If we go to tab 4, under Capital 13, Capital Improvement Financing Scenarios, go to scenario number 1 spreadsheet, 20-year. Starting on your left now, and I did fail to mention this, and this is a very important factor also. We're not growing your assessed valuation. We're taking your existing assessed valuation.
That'll be a constant.
It'll be a constant based on that number. So any growth will be in benefit to the taxpayers.
Right.
Okay, so you can see the next column is the assessed valuation, and then the next column is your existing debt. And there's where you can see what I was talking about in terms of the ascending debt that you had from the previous series. And then in the box is the principal and interest and total debt service payments that you have for this bond issue, for the 84.
About 5.8 million per year.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
About 2.5 pennies, 2.7 pennies, I guess.
Okay. And the amount of projected income from that tax rate at 93% is what?
Is sufficient to make the debt service payment with the 2.37 pennies, it'll make your debt service.
How much of a cushion will we have?
It's hard to say, Judge, how much of the cushion it's going to have, and the reason, I'm not trying to hedge the question or avoid the question, but the problem is, how much is your assessed valuation going to grow?
Well, assuming it doesn't grow, and we do it at...
Yeah, assuming it doesn't grow, the only other thing that we can have is whatever penalties and interest you can plug into it.
If it doesn't grow, what is the amount of money that comes in that we can use for payment?
That amount.
That amount.
It's right on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But this is with no growth for the next several years. Now, if we have growth.
Throughout the
it'll
life.
generate more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the items that we discussed with First Southwest is to make it flat and not consider any growth, because that's part of what's hurting us somewhat on the previous bond issue, that we had a 6% growth projected in there, and we got hit with a flat line. It was great at the beginning, but now that's why we're seeing that kick up of 200,000 or 300,000, because the growth flattened out. So to take a very conservative approach, flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sir. Go ahead.
That's it for me.
Can you address Mr. Travers' concerns? I know that he's voiced them about three different times.
I will, Judge, but I would prefer to make sure that, I think it's really important that we understand his question so that we can be able to get back to him. So what I would suggest is that I meet with him, understand his question, and we will respond to him.
Get Jaime to meet with him.
Yeah. That'll be fine. Have Mr. Longoria meet with him,
Very well.
the two of you.
Yes, sir. And we'll include whatever backup or support from our firm that is needed to make sure that that the concept and the question that he has is understood fully.
Judge, if I may,
Yes.
would you agree to have Raul?
Yeah, Raul should be there also. I mean, we're just trying to get a feel for what the costs are going to be.
Thank you very much.
Do you need action on anything?
No, sir. More than anything, was a workshop for presentation to the commissioners
All right,
as to
sir.
what we're proceeding with. Just
Need a-
again, as I mentioned before, We will be having a phone call with the rating agencies on Thursday. I will send a memo out to the commissioners, whoever wants to attend or have somebody there. It'll be a phone conference. I'll check with the location if it's going to be at Mr. Ramirez's office or at the district office or at your office. It doesn't matter to us, just that we're going to be setting up a rating agency conference.
All right. And when will the sale take place?
The 12th of February. The sale will take place on the 12th of February.
All right. And that's when all of us, or the majority of us, have to be
Yes, sir.
present?
Yes, sir.
All right. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Judge, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to convene a regular meeting of the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court meeting for today, January the 22nd, 2013. The entire court being present, we have a quorum. Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Townsend?
Dear Father in heaven, please bless us this day. Please help us to remember that we're all here because we care about the county. We want good decisions made, just and fair for everybody. We ask you to bless our families, bless our nation, bless all the troops that are trying to keep us free. And we ask all of this in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Any concerns on our consent agenda, Mr. Ocasio?
I do not have any, Judge. Unless anyone else has a concern on the consent agenda, I will recommend for approval.
Second.
I have one concern,
Okay.
and you're requesting, I'm trying to find out what the distinction is. There's a Texas Association of County Auditors. You're requesting that we go ahead and approve payment to that organization, but that organization is involved in lobbying. And that issue has always come up whenever we've attempted to pay the dues that other organizations have requested of us. And I'm trying to understand the difference. I have no problem with approving it, but I want to make sure that it applies across the board, that we don't have any similar issues of concern when we're trying to get other dues paid.
Now, that issue has been cleared up, Judge. The lobbying, the statutes allow for county funds to be used for membership dues when the organization is lobbies. However, it's required that it has to be a statewide association, and for non-statewide associations, the membership has to be at a certain percentage in order for county funds to be used for lobbying purposes. So in this case, the organization is a statewide organization, and lobbying is permissible for that group. Same thing for Texas Association of District Clerks, County Judges, and Commissioners. All of those organizations, it would be permissible for them to use the membership dues for lobbying.
All right. I know we have some organizations like the I-69 Committee, the 281 Committee, the Rio Grande Valley Partnership, or some regional organizations that don't stretch statewide but are regional.
Yeah, on those type of organizations, what is required is some kind of agreement that the organization agrees to use those funds for the public purpose. And normally, the county commissioners court permits that.
All right,
you
sir.
approve that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Under open forum, first presenter is Virginia Townsend.
Virginia Townsend, Precinct 3. How much trouble would it be for you all to change the time we start meetings? Why don't we just start them at 9:30? It would just be so much better than expecting a meeting to start at 9. Of course, always Tito is here, and now I see Commissioner Cuellar comes pretty early. Today, Joseph did. Well, I mean, it's just a whole lot more professional if we come at the time that the meeting is scheduled. So I don't know how much trouble it is for y'all to change the official meeting time to be 9:30 or whatever. It would just be a whole lot better. And I want to say, and I know you can't answer back, so I just have to complain to the air, but did you all open the floodgates now since we got off a step and grade? Have we just opened the floodgates and just everybody who wants a raise come? I mean, my goodness. It's going to take most of the agenda today, adjusting salaries up. And I don't know if you can close the floodgates, but I wish that you would, so there'd be some kind of sanity again, because this is never going to end. Is everybody just going to be, it's time for us to go too? I don't know. I liked step and grade because there was order to it. Now, I don't know. Also, I have something that I heard last week that totally took me by surprise. What I heard last week was Dannenbaum is not primarily an engineering firm, but an architectural one. I've never heard that all the years Dannenbaum has been here. That we had to hire somebody that was engineering so they could help the person, or that Dannenbaum was mostly architectural. Crazy. I've never heard anything but Dannenbaum engineering. And now all of a sudden it's architectural? Sorry, I didn't know that. And then, I don't know, it's part of that controversy about paying them back money or something. Anyhow, didn't know it, still don't know it. If somebody can enlighten me, that'd be great. Thanks.
Our next presenter is Fern McClarty.
Good morning. My name is Fern McClarty, and I'm from Precinct 4. I know that you get busy watching the agendas, but I have 2 items I have questions. So I'm just giving you a heads up that I'll be standing behind the people on 8D and 23A3. And while I'm standing here, I agree with Virginia. I think I called into 710. Radio, why in the world do we pay different salaries for the same job throughout the county? Precinct 3 pays one thing for secretaries or workers, Precinct 4 pays another, Precinct 2 pays another. Why in the world would you run your business this way, that you would pay different, the same 2 secretaries, you'd pay one a lot higher, do exactly the same thing, been there the same years? So we're just asking, we thought step and grade was wonderful, and people were finally seeing that the county was trying to work for the employees. So we just asked y'all to please check into this. Thank you. I'll see you shortly.
Next presenter is Opal Billman.
Good morning. My name is Opal Billman. Beginning in 1952, throughout the years of my marriage to Joe Billman, we invested our money in land and capital improvements. In May of 1996, I was sued for divorce. The 275th District Court determined our land and capital improvements to be excess land with no value, and between Joe and me neglected to include any of our land and capital improvements in the divorce process. In accordance with the rationale of the court, if we had invested our money in savings accounts at the bank for community property, we would have excess money with no value. Willis and Mildred Billman bought the north 20 acres of John H. Sherry, Lot 184, in 1942 from CF and Claudia Callison. For 71 years, taxes on the north 20 acres of John H. Sherry Lot 184 have and still are being paid by Billmans. The taxes are currently paid right out of the cash register of the estate of Joe Billman and me. Although the appraisal district has completely erased our names from the tax rolls as the owners. Joe didn't sell any land. I didn't sell any land. The land and capital improvements were not included in any divorce settlement. By whose authority were our names removed as owners from land we bought and paid for years ago, and we are still paying the taxes? Joe and I did not go out and buy 72 acres of land with a private lake, a trailer park, 5 acres of citrus, and a duplex apartment. No, we bought land as it became available that adjoined the original 20-acre purchase. The rest we did. No district judge can appoint a third-party beneficiary for all of the community property of Joe and me and call it a divorce settlement. It's unconstitutional. The court appointed a beneficiary. The court-appointed beneficiary, holding a document stating that he bought the community property for $10 from Joe, made the rounds of several courts 10 years ago, and claiming to be my beneficiary, signed my community property over to Joe, therefore to himself, since he supposedly paid Joe $10 for our community property. There's a word for that. It's called fraud. No beneficiary anywhere gets the property of the deceased until the deceased is dead. Obviously, he was not my beneficiary 10 years ago, and he absolutely has no legal authority whatsoever to sign away any my community property to anyone. I would have as much right to sign away yours. When I'm arrested for criminal trespass, the court is building a record to be used when I really am dead, that I am trespassing on land owned by the court-appointed beneficiary. Although the court-appointed beneficiary, the accuser, never shows up at the trials. It is the court itself who is accusing me of trespassing on property because the court is enforcing the unconstitutional divorce settlement. An unconstitutional court order cannot be enforced. The Constitution and state law give Joe's heirs their inheritance from their father and me, my community property. I am alive. My beneficiaries are my 3 children, and I want my freedom from the police-enforced false imprisonment. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, under item 6, our budget office, Mr. Cruz. Sergio.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Sergio Cruz, Department of Budget Management. Item 16A is discussion, consideration, and possible action on a proposed policy restricting salary schedule changes after budget adoption proceedings. This policy is in accordance with the court's direction a few weeks ago to bring over a policy that would restrict any changes to the budget that would increase the general fund budget for this year or for subsequent years. I provided a copy of the policy to the court. Also, it's been reviewed by legal counsel. If court wishes, it's a fairly short policy. I can just read the actual policy language. It reads, once a county budget has been adopted for the ensuing fiscal year, the County of Hidalgo Commissioners Court will not consider any changes to the number of positions and salary paid to each authorized position within a department or office which will have a fiscal impact on current or future general fund budgets. Personnel actions allowed under the county's personnel policy manual, Civil Service Commission rules, and law enforcement pay plan are allowed. Personnel-related requests, including salary adjustments or number of positions in an office or department in violation of this policy, shall not be included in the Commissioners Court agenda for consideration. This
I
is
would also like to include any possible action taken today that the DA's office will be excluded
from any action that
The lawyers in the DA's office?
The lawyer in the DA's office will be
Right.
excluded.
for professional personnel?
Yeah, from the DA's office. And that'll be my motion.
I think Mr. Guerra made a strong argument to remain competitive in the marketplace.
Judge, also think the exclusion has to include all of the departments that the Commissioner's Court doesn't set salaries for. Adult probation, juvenile probation, auditor's office, and I don't know whether any other departments they don't
Yeah,
set salaries for.
if for those departments that Commissioners Court does not set salaries, if they don't have to come back to Commissioners Court, then we won't bring them back. Again, if the Board of Judges make whatever changes to whatever salaries that they're authorized to make, then it would be based on their board action, not based on Commissioners Court action.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think the policy should have language to that effect. It should exclude, like they're going to exclude the District Attorney's Office. I think we have to exclude all those departments that are, the salaries are not set by the Commissioner's Court.
We can include a note in the policy stating what other departments' salaries are set by other governing boards, just for clarification, if the court wishes.
Judge, also, I have a question regarding changes made to the salaries after the salary schedule is adopted. Like it's happening this year, I'm wondering how is this going to be accomplished next year when you have this policy in place and you having to come back and change salaries because of an error.
It's going to have to be done in budget time.
That's the whole purpose of the policy.
You mean if there's an error in whatever computation that's being done during the budget process, we would request a waiver from the policy just for that error. If an error occurs, we are going to, from some of the procedures that we're getting from the audit that your office is conducting, we're going to try to add more analysis, more review, more procedures to make sure that errors don't occur. However, I mean, they do occur just by nature. But we would request, if there is an error, we would request an exemption to correct those errors from the salary schedule, if they do occur. We hope that does not occur next fiscal year.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners?
I just have one statement I'd like to make is our firm did not review this policy. I was handed this policy this morning.
Mercedes?
She's not with our firm.
No, then I'm sorry. Our civil service attorney is the one that reviewed the policy, not Steve Treen's office. I apologize for that.
And I do believe the last sentence will not, should not be in the policy.
Yes. Esther, can you step forward? I mean, this is clearly human resources. Have you looked at the policy? Have you studied it and the impact that it will have on our budget?
No, I haven't, but Mercedes has.
Ma'am?
I haven't, but Mercedes has. I hadn't gotten a copy of the policy. I believe it was reviewed or submitted to Mercedes's office for review.
Mercedes?
Yes, sir.
You're nodding your head. I'm not sure what it is you were saying.
Yes, no, we did review this policy. It was sent to our office yesterday, and we looked at it. We worked with Sergio via email, and we cleaned it up a little bit. And
you believe it conforms to every legal requirement that may be out there?
I believe it complies with all the civil service concerns, Civil Service Commission rules. Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Preen had a recommendation to remove the last sentence from the policy. Further restriction.
The one I added or the one in there?
The one in there.
To remove it completely?
Yes.
Judge, but this policy would apply to civil service cover employees and non-civil service cover employees. So I would recommend that legal counsel commissioners will review this particular policy before it's approved.
Well, if we approve it, we can still do it subject to any legal opinion being to the contrary.
Yeah, we can approve it subject to legal, and if any changes, we'll be brought back next week.
Yeah. Yes.
Sergio.
Yes, sir.
When you say no fiscal impact, what do you exactly do you mean on that?
Any increases to the general fund budget. That's what we mean, any increases. If you have, last week, I believe.
From the bottom line.
Yes, sir. That it would mean increasing that department's budget for the next fiscal year, then yes, we would recommend that those items not be brought to court until during the budget process.
It means this will not apply to road and bridge, just only general fund?
Again, road and bridge is supplemented by general fund, so if it's going to increase the road and bridge budget and it would ensue an additional transfer in from general fund, then yes, that would apply to road and bridge as well.
In other words, the budget is for $1,000. As long as you stay within the $1,000, then you can increase others.
Yes, sir. If last week I believe there was some changes deleting truck drivers and creating maintenance positions for the same salary. It's a different function, but that would be allowed in order for the departments to continue operating. However, creating a new position with a higher salary amount would not be.
Now, the impact would be from the fund balance or just from within, like, for example?
From within. Even if for this fiscal year, it would mean deleting, removing $10,000 from office supplies to give to salaries, but next year you're going to need those office supplies again. It would, again, have an effect on future budgets, so we'd recommend that those items not be considered as well.
So you're saying as long as a department can fund it from within, then it'll be okay?
From within their salary, from within the amount that has been budgeted for salaries within that department.
Or not from the budget
Not within their operating, but within their salaries account.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. I'll make a second. Is there still a subject to legal review of the document?
We can go ahead and put that on there.
Okay.
All right. That motion has been made and seconded with that exception and subject to legal review. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries. Those against, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Judge, also subject to the changes that you indicated, right?
Sir?
Yeah.
Subject to the changes you indicated to exclude the district attorney's office?
Judge, item 16B is approval to designate in the amount of $26,400 in year 2012 for expenditures related to the repair and maintenance of the county jail in connection with the landmark settlement case. These are funds that were encumbered in a PO that has rolled over to 2013. These were landmark settlement funds, so we're just requesting that these be reserved. That way we can appropriate them in fiscal year 2013.
Move for approval. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Item 16C1, A and B, is approval of certification of revenues as certified by the county auditor and appropriation of those funds for the Precinct 4 drainage improvement projects in the amount of $47,290.56. These are for the November labor reimbursements.
Move for approval. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And on item 6C2, A and B, is approval to undesignate the amount of $26,400 in fiscal year 2013 for expenditures related to the repair and maintenance of the county jail in connection with the landmark settlement case and appropriation of those funds.
Move for approval. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Judge, out of respect to elected officials in the audience, I see the district attorney there.
Right. I was
Got
going to
Ed
call
Guerra.
Mr. Guerra. I saw him standing there.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Brennan, that your item is, I was looking at it, and I believe it's 22A, or is there another one? What item are you here on, Brennan?
To approve some salary schedules, Judge. There's a couple of items that, good morning, Judge and Commissioners, Mr. Facio, Mr. Ellison Hall, and Mr. Guerra.
Morning.
Over the years, if I might point out to bond forfeiture commission funds, it's in, I forgot what page it's on.
All right,
in your
for the
agenda.
record, you're looking at item 22A?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Now, over the years, because of a statute that was passed in Austin allowing us to collect a 5 to 10% commission on bail bond forfeitures, the legislature authorized the DAs and county attorneys to create a fund, like an incentive fund. And I believe we set up a fund back in 2000, somewhere around there. We started collecting 5–10% on bail bonds that were collected from personal bail bond companies. Over the years, up until last year, we had collected something like $200-something thousand.
200 and what?
$200-something thousand.
Oh, something, okay.
About 216, 212, somewhere around there. And the auditor on his own, without court approval, without even discussion with me, took that money and put it into road and swept it into road and bridge, which I think is an illegal act for him to do that. I don't know that he had any authority to just go in there and decreate an account that had been created previously, had never been challenged, and that money was supposed to be a rainy day fund for the DA's office, similar to the check fees that we collect on collection of hot checks. Those statutes have been passed by the legislature, passed the constitutional revisions back in the, I forgot what year, when the Constitution was revised, allowing all elected officials to go on a salary basis instead of a fee basis. In the old days, if you did your job, you depended on fees that you collected for your salary. Well, because people were not making ends meet under the fee schedule, the legislature in the state of Texas amended the Constitution allowing everybody to go on salaries. So we wouldn't have to depend on how many fees we got through court actions and what have you. Now, the auditor section says that the legislature, by giving us a commission on bail bonds, that's a fee of office, so that should be sent into the general fund kitty. And we strongly disagree. The legislature would not have passed that statute allowing us to collect a commission if it had not intended to be an incentive for the county attorneys to go after the bail bonds that have sometimes gone uncollected because of the political processes in the courthouse. Bail bond companies are not held accountable and what have you. Now, the reason I bring this up is that I'm depending on those $200,000 to fund the fees for the professionals that I'm asking the court to approve. Aside from, I think, $200-something thousand elsewhere. Where we're getting the other $200,000? The legislature, through the pretrial diversion program, has authorized the DA's office to collect a $500 fee on a procedure for young offenders and other folks that qualify to collect $500 on each case. And we have collected about $300,000 in the last few years that we've been collecting that fee. And so those two amounts will cover the salary adjustments that I want for the professionals. But the auditor has on his own decided that that's not going to happen and that he's raised some concerns. What I need from the Commissioner's Court is to order him to give me back the bail bond commission money, set it to my discretionary use, and I'm asking you, the Commissioner's Court, to use that money to fund the salary adjustments for the professionals, plus the fee that I'm collecting for the pretrial diversion program.
Do the statutes contain some kind of a general purpose for these monies, like the proper administration of justice, or?
Well, Judge, in looking at, the legislature doesn't give you much description as to what you should do or shouldn't do. The only thing that is generally known and generally held, and I believe it since the word go on check fees, I could not pad my salary with check fees, but I could use it for office purposes, for law enforcement purposes. The same thing applies to the bail bond commission money and the pretrial diversion money. The legislature authorized the authority of the collection of those funds, and so the inherent use of that money is for official purposes, not for the salary of the elected official. If that was the case, would I be probably the highest paid individual, maybe aside from Godfrey Garza, in the county? But we don't, you know, that money is for official purposes, for my use, for something that I feel that I need for the betterment of the office. Now, there is an Attorney General's opinion that has been requested out of Fannin County, I think, on the commission, but I think we're going to win on that one. And I'm asking the Commissioner's Court to approve the salary schedules there. I'm asking you for the professionals, and also to support staff through the discretionary money that I have on check fees, investigation fund, and what have you.
The salary schedule will be under 22B3, I believe. Is that the one you're asking us to approve?
The first item.
The first item is a bail bond commission fees, Judge, to get that money back out of the...
Is the money that you're going to take, is that going to be sufficient to fund any of these salary increases that you're proposing?
Yes, sir. And both funds
How much
should
is
be able to...
116 and how much total of what?
Over
500 and something?
311 on the pretrial diversion, I believe. $266.52. And the bail bond commission fees are $216,415.09.
And the salary increases that you're proposing, what do they total?
Roy, what's the amount?
It's a combination of these two, sir, plus an additional 30-some-odd thousand from the investigation fund.
Okay.
See, I'm funding my own adjustments, Judge, with the court's approval.
Yes.
And I don't. It's not a far reach. It's not anything that is really would be considered unreasonable.
No, Mr. Guerra, many times the lowest paid individual in that courtroom is a district attorney, the assistant DA.
Well, that's unfortunately the truth, Judge. But that's another fight for another day with somebody else.
Oh, is,
the
when
other,
was this money taken? Balde. Yes, sir. When was this money transferred over? This year? This past year?
I don't know if it was transferred, it would have been sometime this year.
It was in October 2012.
October?
Oh, October?
And
last
it
year.
took him that long to figure it out, or what?
He transferred the money in October of last year.
This money's been sitting there for how long? For years?
No, since October. Since October of the
No.
last fiscal year.
I thought he had
since
been
2002.
trying to collect it since 2000.
Yes,
2000.
The money that's been in that account since 2000, and they took it out this past year?
Yes.
Judge.
That's my question.
Judge, can I explain how this whole thing happened? Can I,
I'm sorry, can you repeat
I
that?
said, can I explain how this whole thing was created?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay. Back since 2000, 2001, the commission for bond forfeitures was set aside and reserved in error. This reservation was based on a request by the district attorney, but the revenues are collected, they're assessed, collected, deposited, and reported as required by statute. I couldn't find a statute that says that those monies should be reserved. I reserve funds for example, records archive fee, records management, but that is because the statute requires it. And I reserve it when the statute says that those fees can be used for by a specific office for a specific purpose. In this case, the statutes do not say that, so therefore, in my opinion, they were reserved in error. I cannot just reserve funds if an officer wants me to reserve them. I have to go by the statute.
What would have happened, Mr. Ofraz, if they would have been spent last year before you even took any action on it?
Well, so they were reserved, for 11 years they've been reserved, not a penny has been used. And when I looked into it, I discovered there was an error, so I corrected the error. I put the money back into the Road and Bridge Fund where that is where the other 90% of the bond forfeiture funds are being deposited.
These monies are fees generated through the DA's office, by the DA's office, and, you know, they're needed right now at this point in our, the circumstances of our budget situation dictate that we use them.
Right, but I cannot just reserve funds at the request of anyone, even the Commissioner's Court. You cannot determine to, or approve to reserve funds. It has to be done based on the statute requirements. So you can utilize general fund monies or road and bridge money or whatever fund you have to pay for his salaries, but not from that.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Did you bring it to court on the agenda to transfer those funds?
Like I said, there's no court approval. I'm going strictly by what the law says. The law says reserve it, I reserve it. In this case, I did not. I did not.
My question is,
Where's a copy of the statute? I want
got
to
the
read the statute
court
in the record.
to advise the court that you don't transfer this money from this account to this account.
But no, I did not, Commissioner, because it was an error that was made.
What made you think that they should have gone to road and bridge instead of general fund?
Exactly, yeah.
Judge, let me point out something that the auditor, and it's unfortunate that sometimes a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. The statute says that 5% and 10% commission will be collected and deposited with the treasurer. It doesn't say swept into the road and bridge fund, like all fines and all bill bond collections that we collect, the general money. The statute specifically dictates 5% and 10% will be set aside and deposited into the treasury. It doesn't say road and bridge.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing that has happened is that the auditor with some of his staff, having many lawyers available at no expense to him, Josie, Victor, Michael, my office, I got 59, 60 lawyers, has failed to ask for legal opinions, and so they go into the books, they interpret the laws their way, and then they go out and create havoc in some areas that there shouldn't be any question at all. And he quotes from an article in one of the digests where, I think it's a Brooks Digest, where the guy says that he's not sure that commissions will be fees of office as in the old ways, where back in the roaring 20s and what have you, JPs could collect a fee for their salary on the case that they heard. That was authorized by statute. But when the Constitution was amended to go with every elected official as a salary individual, paid by general funds and whatever funds were thrown into the county budget, depository, that was all changed. But now we have legislatures that are changing and authorizing specific collection of funds, and yet the auditor wants to go back to the old ways and say, no, that's a fee of office, we're going to throw it back in under the old days, and now since he's accepted a salary, that fee should go to the county general fund. The problem here is that this is not money for my salary. The commission that is authorized by article or by statute 41.005 of the government code, I think, doesn't say that this is a fee for salary of the DA. It doesn't speak to salary, and that's why we will win that opinion. And if not, it's going to take a court fight, okay? And I'll go to court to prove to the auditor and other auditors that the legislature intends the collection of those fees as an incentive for DAs to go out and collect bail bonds across the state for the betterment of their offices, especially when hard times are around the state of Texas in low economic periods. We cannot keep strained staff if we continue doing we'll give you maybe a 3% salary increase, and yet others come over here to the trough and walk away with thousands to the disillusionment of the people that really are carrying the ball for the county.
Yes, sir. Well, unless there's a need for further questions, I would entertain.
I've got a question for Sergio. Sergio, that money was transferred over to Road and Bridge.
Correct.
And it's being put to our budget right now, right?
It wasn't included in the budget. It was transferred over after the budget adoption, so it's still sitting in the fund balance.
So there shouldn't be any problem transferring it back?
No, sir, we can appropriate it back. If it's going to remain in Road and Bridge, we would appropriate it within Road and Bridge and then reduce the transfer in that we did
Well, that's what I mean.
from general
Has
fund.
has it been transferred to Road and Bridge for our budget? No?
It hasn't been appropriated, no,
It's
sir.
been sitting there.
It's been sitting there.
Can we transfer it back to the DA's office?
We can reduce our transfer in. We can do it that way. It wouldn't necessarily be the same.
That's my motion.
Second.
Judge. That would, hold on, let me clarify the motion. That would be to approve 22A 1 and 2?
Yeah.
To transfer, in order returning bond forfeiture commission funds.
To be used for their increases in their salaries, right? Yeah.
No, let's just transfer it back.
Yeah, transfer it right now, yeah.
All right, you had a question?
You can transfer the money back into the general fund, that's not an issue. However, the general is going to go into the general fund's fund balance. You cannot use general fund balance after the budget has been approved unless you declare an emergency expenditure.
Well, we're not. What we're saying is that money was inadvertently placed in the wrong account.
Yeah.
I disagree,
We're trying to
Judge.
correct that.
But it's a budget-to-budget transfer, so I don't think that we need to worry about that.
So what I'm saying is that those funds cannot be tapped into. So if you approve the item that is related to these funds, those funds cannot be utilized, cannot be appropriated because they're not there.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve items 22A 1 and 2. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Now 22B. This relates to approval of your bond forfeiture commission budget, and which would, let's see, approval of 2013 appropriation of funds of the DA's office bond forfeiture commission.
1, 2.
Okay, you need action on
You
that?
need-
2 and 3?
yes.
Move for approval.
That would be the $216,415.09, sir.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 22B2, the funds in the pretrial diversion program.
That would be $311,266.52.
Move for approval. Second.
Judge, on that particular item, the one related to, I'm sorry, B3, are you not doing B2?
We're on B2, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
All right, motion and a second to approve item B2AB. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Now, on B2, do you have sufficient funds, Sergio? Because we can determine if funding
There
is
was 30,000
totally in
extra
place.
dollars we're gonna get.
Yes, sir. We deleted some slots. We're deleting some slots, the assistant DA slots out of the HB 65. Therefore, we're using these other funds to fund those positions.
Because the documentation is not included in the particular agenda item. We couldn't determine if there was sufficient funds. So are you going to be able to get him
Yes, sir.
funding, Sergio?
We attached the corrected backup, I believe, late yesterday. So
Okay.
all the documentation should be there now.
All right, thank you.
All right, under item B3, let's see, approval of the following personnel actions as listed on Exhibit A. Under items 1, 2, salary increases, reallocation of funds, position and employee transfers, auto allowance adjustments, creation, deletion of slots, title changes, and approval of salary schedules as stated on Exhibit A.
Move for approval 1 through 6.
Now, we have a concern with that particular item, Judge, because the documentation, it's a mixture of those three funds, and we cannot determine, for example, the Exhibit A that it's described there has positions that are filled, and however, the funding is being reduced for those positions. Exhibit B and C increases the salary and is creating new slots and fund HB 65 only. However, the action is for pretrial, bond forfeiture, HB 65, and civil litigation and BPU, but the documentation only is for one fund. So we're not clear as to what exactly we're
Well,
trying to do.
it appears that Exhibit A will provide for those 6 items that they're requesting approval of that are listed on Exhibit A, and then approval of the salary schedules as listed on Exhibit A.
Yeah, but the documentation attached has Exhibit B and C, and Exhibit B and C is only for HB 65. Okay. Reattached? Okay, all right. So hopefully this would explain everything, Judge, because we can understand what they were doing.
Need a motion to approve?
There's a motion and a second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right. That takes care of all your issues, Mr. Guerra?
Judge, we have I think it's item 15A.
15?
15A.
Yes, sir. It has to do with the HIDCO task force, the money laundering task force, and drug interdiction.
All right. Item authorization and approval for the HIDCO task force investigators to be paid for overtime, straight time work for 2013.
Move for approval.
Second.
That's been budgeted. Am I correct?
That's
Yes,
part
sir.
of the overtime.
All right. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Let's go back to item 7A, an appointment of a board member to the Tropical Texas Behavioral Center Board of Trustees for a 2-year term, effective January the 22nd, 2013. At this time, we would reappoint Mr. Oscar Rodriguez. He's a gentleman who has been a member appointed by a prior county judge and has been serving on the board of Tropical Texas and has been doing an excellent job. We visited with the director. He would like to make sure that we keep him, and with that in mind, I would move to appoint Mr. Oscar Rodriguez.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries. Commissioner Joe, there's a vacancy from your precinct.
On you, what?
On the Tropical Texas Behavioral Center Board of Trustees. You may want to put it on the agenda for next week.
For next week, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I'll talk to you.
All right.
I have an appointment on that.
Okay, 7B, need a motion to approve the resignation of Emily Rickers from the Subdivision Advisory Board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And number 2, B2 is a new appointment of Lindley Almaguer, an attorney here in Hidalgo County, to be the new appointment, the new individual member of the Subdivision Advisory Board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. Karina Cardoza with the Public Affairs Division. Item C reads, approval of proclamation in support of the Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House. And at this point, I'd like to ask members who are in the audience representing the Children's Advocacy Center. We have Ms. Tina Martin, Chairman of the Board. We have Mr. Rick Guerrero. He's a board member, and he actually is a county employee at the Juvenile Probation Department. Jesus Sanchez is the Finance Director. And Ms. Pat Blum is joining us, and she's a consultant for Estrella's House. I'd like to introduce Ms. Tina Martin to say a few words about what this proclamation means for the children of Hidalgo County.
Thank you. And good morning, and thank you for your support and your resolution today. And we want to thank you for all the support that you have given us over the years. 13 years ago, we opened Children's Advocacy Center to reduce the emotional trauma of children who had been sexually assaulted. We work closely with Child Protective Services, with the local police departments, with the district attorney's office, and the sheriff's department. We began with only having child forensic forensic interviews and doing sexual assault exams. We have now grown into including child forensic evaluations, family advocate programs, mental health service, and education and outreach programs. The first year, 13 years ago, we served 234 children. Today, we are serving over 1,800 children and families. Today, in our society, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted by the time they reach the age of 18. And in the majority of the cases, it will be by somebody they know and they trusted. The statistics are highest for children who are between the age of 6 and 12. It is estimated that only 1 in 10 assaults are actually reported, and many people do not know that it is a crime not to report child abuse. We appreciate all of the support that you have given our agency, and you have given us much in the last 13 years. So we are inviting you to our 3rd annual Vinos on February the 16th at Antigua Banquet Center here in Edinburgh. You will enjoy fine wines, great cuisines from our local restaurants, listen to Renaissance rockers and Del Castillo while helping to support our services and allowing us to serve the children of Hidalgo County. All of our funds are raised, are kept here locally, and we use them to get matched grants for our services. So again, I wanted to come and thank you for all of your support.
And this support, if I may read the proclamation, is just supporting this event that they're having. Proclamation in support of the Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House. Whereas Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House, was established in the year 2000 in tribute to Estrella Rojas, a victim of child abuse whose life ended tragically in Edinburgh, Texas. Her memory is kept alive by helping and treating any child who is a victim of abuse. And whereas the Children's Advocacy Center, a nonprofit organization, is one of 500 children's advocacy centers nationwide, one of 67 certified children's advocacy centers in Texas, and the first child-focused facility and community-based program of its kind in Hidalgo County, serving child abuse victims aged 2 to 17 years of age. And whereas the Children's Advocacy Center provides a safe haven with a child-friendly, non-institutional environment where young victims are not afraid to tell their story. Re-victimization of child victims is minimized by using a multidisciplinary team approach to child abuse investigations. And whereas the Commissioner's Court of Hidalgo County has, in past years, been a major benefactor of the Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House, by providing funds as allowed by Local Government Code Section 381.004. And whereas the Commissioner's Court of Hidalgo County is mindful of the critical economic hardships and alarming reductions in federal and state funding to all kinds of important social service providers, such as the Children's Advocacy Center. And whereas the Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House, is having an event, Vinos, at La Antigua Revilla on February 16, 2013, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hidalgo County Commissioner's Court supports this event to raise funds for the Children's Advocacy Center, Estrella's House, in their mission to break the cycle of abuse one child at a time. Dated this 22nd day of January, 2013.
Move for approval.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
See. How are you, Ms. Blum? Okay, thank you. No, we're okay. We're okay. Don't worry. Thank you all very much for the good work that you do. All right, next item, 7D as in David.
7D, we are going to take no action, sir. There were some concerns with the agreement, so we're going to bring it back next week. Thank you.
All right, item 8, Mr. Guerra.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. There's no action under item A12 unless there's action to be taken further down the agenda. There's nothing to report under item B. We'll have something for next week. Item C, Judge, Commissioners, I'm asking authority to process all outstanding invoices related to the Office of Constable Precinct 5. This is for the year ending December 31st, 2012. This would be with authority for the county treasurer to issue check and review and auditing procedures are completed by the county auditor's office. There are some invoicing that has been coming in, and so they're coming into my office. Again, the auditor's office has reviewed, everything's in place, but I'm asking authority from the court to sign off on the invoicing. Since
But so the authority you're seeking is to approve the invoices for payment?
approve the invoicing for payment as well as any outstanding invoicing that'll be coming in. I don't know what's left.
Second.
Yeah, this is for 2012, yes, sir.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item D is a follow-up from a couple weeks ago. This is the December outstanding billing for RGV Educational Broadcasting. I'm asking for a payment of the invoice for RGV Educational Broadcasting Inc. This is for broadcasting of court meetings. This is also with the authority for county treasurer to issue payment after review and auditing procedures are completed by the county auditor as follows. Invoice 8130 dated 12/31/12. We received the invoice on 1/15 of this year. The amount is $9,500, and that is for the month of December 2012.
Second.
But for current year,
There's a motion and a second.
we're not gonna need a claim. I'm wondering why we have claims now for this invoices. But there was a PO in place, so for the current year, we're gonna have another purchase order? And
For 2013, yes, we'll have a purchase order for 2013. Yes.
Tito, that's the one I have a question on that I had signed up for. My question is, we're paying just under 8 hours, 2 hours and 37 minutes, 1 hour and 24 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 4 minutes, and we're just paying $9,500. I just wondered, is there a better way of doing this? I mean, how much money is this costing us to put it over compared to what we used to pay?
The rate is $500 per half hour. This is a county-wide broadcasting. Again, when the court took action years ago for our commissioner's court to be broadcast, the action that was taken was that it had to be accessible to every county resident. So this is a county-wide broadcasting.
Okay, has this always cost us this much, even when we were in the other building?
The broadcasting fee is, when we were at the old building, they were charging as well for recording. Okay, so the rate that we're getting right now is just for the broadcasting of our court sessions.
So actually, it's cheaper what we're paying now than what we paid before?
I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I can tell you that it's not the same fee because they're not recording.
We're having to pay City of Edinburgh some money, you know what?
Yes, for the use of this facility, yes, sir.
On top of this or in this?
No, on top of this. This is for broadcasting only.
For
and again,
Channel 60 or
for
PBS?
Channel 60, right. And again, this is so that this court session is accessible to every county resident.
We understand that, but
Okay.
it just seemed a little high, and they had asked me to ask, so that's what I did.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, Commissioners, item E is discussion approval of an order regulating parking in the parking lot of the old administration building and providing for towing and storage of unauthorized parked vehicles. Judge, Commissioners, unfortunately, with all the work that's being done over there, there's been some updated courts, Court of Appeals, so we want to update our assigned parking as well as put back on the record the towing and the storage of unauthorized parked vehicles. There is an order that was worked on by Atlas and Hall. It is attached.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The parking lot behind on the southeast corner of the,
A shady lawn.
But since this is we provide services for the public. If somebody goes and parks there.
No, this is for the assigned parking for the officials, the assigned parking. There is public parking throughout, but this is for the assigned parking for the officials, because we do have the
But
court.
we need to have a sign up before we even.
Yes,
The order calls for that.
Yes, the order does call for it. Yes.
They got to be
Well,
put up. Yeah.
my concern is the parking lot is not being utilized.
The southeast parking lot, right, which is the shady lawn.
What can be done to encourage people to use
Commissioner, I will tell you this, we do advise the general public when the courthouse square is full, just east of the courthouse on the east side. We advise them of all of our auxiliary parking, the shady lawn, the one directly south southeast of the bank also belongs to the county. We also advise them of the parking just right down the block, a block and a half, which is the old Robert Chevrolet, which is assigned count or authorized county parking for our residents. You know, to the extent that that we advise them, we do our best to let them know of all the county parking.
Do we have any sign?
Yes, there is signage. Yes, there is properly posted signage advising the general public that that is county parking for county business.
Maybe you can put a sign that says the overflow parking is at a different place. That way they can.
Yeah.
All right. If there are no other questions, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve that particular item E. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item F, I'm asking to advertise a welder 1 position, slot 0097.
So moved.
Check.
How come, I mean, we just passed a policy about,
No, Judge, this is a vacancy within our facilities. It's a welder position. We have taken the action that, or the protocol that we come to court to get authorization to advertise our vacancies.
we're not creating a new.
No, sir. This is a vacant existing.
Those in favor of the motion is made and seconded indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item G, I'm asking acceptance of a settlement check from Farmers Insurance Company in the amount of $2,510.58, and this will settle an auto accident with one of our county vehicles.
So moved.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Item H is requesting permission to allow Ms. Cristina Perez to travel to Alice, Texas. This is to attend the 2013 District 12 4-H Consumer Decision-Making Contest on January 27th of this year.
So moved.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item I is to also ask permission to allow that same individual, Cristina Perez, to travel to San Antonio from February 10th through February 15th of this year, and this is to attend the 2013 San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo under the extension service.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item J is requesting permission to allow Ms. Yvonne Ramon, who is our elections administrator, to attend the Election Center 2013 Special Workshop and Professional Education Program. This is sponsored by the Texas Association of Elections Administrators. The training will be held February 27th through March 3rd in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item K is I'm asking approval to process a payment on a claim for Ricardo Palacios, attorney at law, totaling $2,210 in connection with legal representation of indigent defendants. Obviously, this is with the authority of the county treasurer to issue the payment after review and auditing procedures are completed by our county auditor's office.
How old is this invoice? Is this the one we talked about a couple weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago, yes, it's the same situation. Yes, sir.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate, yes, sir.
Who is this, Ricardo Palacios?
Attorney at law out of McAllen.
I think that's Joseph's brother.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
for the
Yes,
record.
I believe so.
It is.
For
If
the
it's the same
record,
one,
we're not related, so.
Okay. So,
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And for the record, Commissioner Joseph Palacios is not voting, and not even present on this issue.
thank you, Judge Commissioners.
But the item F, that only applies to you, or?
Item F,
Yes. Advertise and hire. You're saying there's a policy that court approved a while
for
back?
our departments,
I'm sorry?
our departments.
All right. So it applies only to departments?
No, Mr. Ufraso, we started this last year. Again, we started this with a 90-day rolling freeze. It has become a practice. I like the practice that we come before the governing body. That way we can show that there is a need to advertise or not advertise at any particular time.
So it's not a policy that the court approved this year is the one that continued from last year, is that what you're saying?
Right, but for the departments.
Right.
Right. I don't mandate or I have no authority over the elected officials.
Okay.
This is for the county departments that are under me. Yes, sir.
All right, that's what I
Okay.
wanted. Thank you.
Right, okay.
All right. Next item. Item 9A. Constable Precinct 2.
I think Valde was going to take that item.
Sir?
I think Valde was going to take that item.
Are you good?
Final Constable had asked me.
Before God.
Judge, I have questions and concerns about this particular item. You want me to voice them now or wait until?
Why don't you, let's wait till we get started. All right. Are you going to be presenting?
I'll go ahead and read the item for Constable.
All right, go ahead.
Item 9A is approval to reset the salary for the Chief Deputy Constable 1 position from a Step 2 to a Step 5 with approval of the revised salary schedule. There is a fiscal impact of $6,289.12.
Are these going to be making us the same as the other precincts, the other constables?
No.
No, sir.
I can tell you because we did some work on it. Precinct 1 is going to get $54,470. Precinct 3 is $55,118. Precinct 4 is $58,718.
And precinct 2 wants how much?
Precinct 2 is wanting $57,063.
And they're all on S5s or S4s, back in the other precincts?
The other precincts, they're all either a Step 1 or Step 2s. On the Constable precinct.
How does this conflict with this policy we just passed this morning?
It would not be allowable based on the policy that we just approved this morning.
So
on the salary for the Constable for Precinct 3, Precinct 4, their salaries are actually $53,918, but they do have supplemental pay based on the pay plan of $1,200 for Constable Precinct 3 and $4,800 for Constable Precinct 4. That's why the salaries are at 55 and 58 respectively, because of the other supplemental pays that are allowable within the pay plan. However, the salary for those Constable 2s are at 53,918.
Pretty close, no?
La diferencia es en esto de abajo, los allowances, los supplements. A 4 to 4,800.
Mr. Rufrazo, you had mentioned you had concerns on the item?
Yes, well, one of the issues is the funding. There was no funding information provided. We don't know whether you're going to be able to fund it or there's funding available from somewhere. The other issue that we have is there's the transfer of funds was not attached, and also there was no agenda caption to that effect.
That's correct, sir. We did not, intentionally did not place any item regarding the funding of the item until we got Commissioners Court direction on this personnel matter. If this is a matter that Commissioners Court wishes to entertain, then we can bring a transfer over next week for this item.
So, okay. I thought maybe you were going to do an emergency transfer. So you're going to, once court approves, then you'll come back with the
We'll come back next week and
transfer of funding?
prepare the transfer of funds, if that's what the court directs us to do. We did that as well for some of the other personnel items. We will not be placing, if it's coming from general fund, we will not be placing the transfer on the agenda until court directs us to, or approves the action, then we'll bring back the funding the following week.
What about the form, Secretary? One of the forms that was attached was not signed. It's been corrected?
The PAR forms?
Yeah, the PAR.
They might have been in routing. It should have been signed already by all parties.
Okay. How can we make the constable for Precinct 2 deputy constable's salary comparable to Precinct 1, 2, Precinct 1, 3, and 4 without violating a policy, or do we need to have a motion to?
You can waive it.
To that effect, or?
You can waive it, no?
We would have to request a waiver of that policy. And
We
then
don't
send
want
it
to
to
start
the.
a precedent on the first day we passed it.
Yes.
Yeah. The only difference is I'm looking at here at the supplements. Why is Precinct 4 getting 4,800 and the rest are getting 1,200?
Mr. Guerra?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question. The salary supplement on your chief deputy, I believe. That
Why are you getting a supplement of 4,800 and the other deputy?
My chief deputy has a master's degree, and yeah, he's got a master's degree, and he's a master peace officer, and he's civil service proficiency certified.
All right, so that answers the question. What does Precinct 2 have for that?
Yeah, no tiene. We need to give them a supplement. Si le damos el supplement, it comes out. Precinct 2, does anybody know what the qualifications are for that gentleman that's going to be deputy constable?
He's here, sir.
Judge, Commissioners, Armando Campos, Chief Deputy for Precinct 2.
25 years with the Sheriff's Office is what we're bringing to the table. I've had no break in service. The only break in service I've had, 90 to 91, activated from military, 8 months. Last break in service was 203 to 204, deployment to Iraq for a year and a half. That is what we're bringing to the table. The years of service with the county, not only with the Sheriff's Office. Last position held was captain with the Sheriff's Office, which was around 6 years, which falls into place more or less when we started the stepping grade in pay, which is about 205, I believe. That is what we're bringing to the table as far as experience. I do hold a master's certificate for peace officers.
Yeah. Right now, that position does not carry any supplemental pay, but yet all the others do. Is there a reason why not, Sergio?
The supplemental pay is based on the certifications that they have, whether they have a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or a PhD, and also on their court approved, I believe, 2 years ago, a supplement for civil service process certification, which some of these other deputies do have. I believe all 3 of the other chief deputies have that certification.
Yes, well, can you tell us under what he just stated are his qualifications, what he brings to the table? Is he entitled to supplemental pay, and if so, in what amount?
No, sir, not for years of service. There is no supplemental pay for years of service. That's what the steps are geared for.
I'm talking about the 25 years as a sheriff's deputy.
Not for supplemental pay, sir. That does not qualify him for any supplemental pay based on years of service.
You came between steps, but not supplemental.
Which is why he's requesting the additional steps, because he does have those years of service, which is what the steps are intended to cover, sir.
But he doesn't qualify.
He doesn't qualify, so you would have to give him the 53,918. Right. Igual que precinct 4.
In order to make, to achieve parity, and we need to start somewhere, we need to supplement, we need to increase this gentleman pay as chief deputy from the present of $51,468 to what everybody else is getting, $53,918.
And the grade will be?
The step would be step 2.
Judge, will you allow me to make a comment on this item agenda?
Sir?
Will you allow me to make a comment on this item agenda?
Yes.
The Constable Precinct 2 is not here. He's up in a newly elected Constables Conference in Huntsville. But I think what he's trying to do is the Chief Deputy in Precinct 1, he has 1 year experience as a supervisor. My Chief Deputy has 4 years experience as a supervisor. The Chief Deputy in Precinct 3 has 3 years experience as a supervisor. They're all at a step 1 or a step 2. The constable in Precinct 2 feels that since his Chief Deputy comes in with former captain at the Sheriff's Office, he has over 15 years experience as a supervisor, and so he wants to move his Chief Deputy into a higher step in grade pay compared to our Chief Deputies.
Which is what we're proposing.
That's correct.
I mean, we're proposing that he make as much as yours, except the difference is the supplemental pay. He doesn't qualify.
Well, he qualifies only for one, which is, I believe you have a Master Peace Officer? Which is...
we asked him a while ago, he said no.
Yeah, he does have a Master Peace Officer certificate, which qualifies for a...
Well, Sergio or Esther, you're the human resources lady. Tell us.
We asked Esther, he said no.
Does he qualify for this supplemental pay?
If that is the wishes of the court, Sergio, I believe that...
We passed the policy 2 years ago.
It's a master's TCLOS license?
Yes, I think that the supplemental pay depends on certain things.
No, a master's TCLOS license would qualify him for $1,800. I apologize for that.
He would qualify.
He would qualify for a TCLOS certification. If he's master certified, it would be $1,800.
So we're not deviating from any policy. I mean, we're.
The 1,800, no, would not be a deviation. That'd be within the constable pay plan.
1,800 aquí. Aquí, that, but 1,800.
Acá es precinct 2. Y le ponemos 53.
Yeah. 53.98.
This is a pay plan before. The steps are not in line, but the HIDCO certifications are.
53,918.
He's saying he has a master's HIDCO certification, which would qualify him for 1,800.
Debe ser 1,200, Joe.
Digo 1,800.
Is it 18 or 1,200?
1,800. That's for the master's HIDCO certification. The civil process certification is 1,200, but I don't believe he has that at this time. Not yet.
So I think he qualifies for the same supplements he had with the sheriff's office, right? They're the same, the constable and the sheriff, they had the same stepping grade. Right?
Yes, with the exception of the civil process certification, I don't believe the sheriff's office has that certification.
I think they also serve civil papers.
Then yes, it
So
should be the
whatever
same.
supplements he qualified over there, he's going to follow.
Would transfer over, correct.
Ahorita está en step 1, we need to make them step 2. All right, well, what we need to do is, under our present policy, is make it 51,468
Plus 1,800.
plus 1,800 supplemental pay. So figure that out.
Step rate 2. Step 2.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to that effect.
Move for approval.
Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
What was it, Judge, 51? What was the number?
51,468.
468?
Plus
supplement?
$1,800 for the supplemental.
Okay.
That put them on par with.
Right.
Yes, and it'll be-
Under our policy.
It'll be a new department, so even though he worked 25, 30 years over there, he comes in here, he starts at step 2.
Step 2, okay. Step 2 plus supplements.
Yeah.
Whatever he qualifies for. Okay.
We're not rewarding him for the transfer. That's what the position pays.
Yeah. And then we'll be against our policies, which was
So you're not resetting it to step 5, improvement step 2?
step 2.
Okay. Item B, precinct 4.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge.
Yes,
Constable
sir.
Eddie Guerra, come before you, 3 items, discussion, consideration, and approval for my office to continue the participation in the 1033 supplemental property program.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Request approval to process the following invoices as claims with authority of the county treasurer to issue payment after review, audit, and processing procedures are completed by the county auditor.
So move. Second.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
some of the invoices that that the constable is requesting to be approved include supplies and materials or equipment, and those items can only be purchased by the purchasing agent. So if he doesn't have a purchase order, I will not be able to pay for those items. Any services I can pay with a purchase
What
order.
happened here, Judge, is we had an open PO with this vendor, and the deputies were taking the units to get serviced, and he would bill us under that PO, but there was certain items in those POs that weren't allowable because it was a new part, and if it's a new part to be put on there, we can't. We have to go out on bids. It was his office that told us to go ahead and put it on the item as claims.
This is the lights for the cars, right?
Pardon?
This is the lights and the sound and video for the
Yes.
cars?
Yeah, it's for the emergency equipment and the patrol vehicles.
So what is Mr. Eufrasio making reference to that are
Well,
not part of the light?
The problem is there's a contract that if we're going to purchase a new item, it has to go off the county contract. And some of these items were brand new, not repaired. And but I have instructed my office from now on to review every invoice and just not open up.
Yeah,
Just
'cause these are
just
about
not do
5
it.
months old, 4 months old.
Yes. It was an open PO. The invoices were submitted, but they weren't.
Marty, can we legally pay for them?
What occurred here was we have a contract for services of removal and replacement of the lights or whatever equipment. In this case, they were using the open purchase order, which is fine, for those services. However, a vehicle was taken in and it needed additional parts, which are not part of the contract. So the vendor supplied the parts, and this is what they're charging for, unbeknown to the constable that or to his staff, that the open purchase order does not permit the vendor to give us, which we probably could have obtained from a co-op or somewhere else, but we didn't know until that bill came in.
Right, but we need them, and it's been installed, and we're using it.
It's been done. It has been done.
Is this with that company on 2nd Street, brother?
Yes, it's, yes.
Can you issue a purchase order, Marty, for those items or not?
No, they were going under the presumption that an open purchase order would permit all of that to happen. So I wasn't aware that that the vendor was supplying parts that are not part of the contract.
So again, Judge, because of that, I'm not authorized to make payment for those items.
If you'll permit me, I don't want to put words in the constable's mouth or his staff, but if we could get something from the constable which would have constituted a work stoppage if those parts were not installed and the car made ready for road use, then we may be able to issue a purchase order for those.
Marty, why can't they be paid under a claim?
They can be, but he says he won't issue the check. He's got a point that those items were not part of the contract. I think a work stoppage memo from the department will permit me to use my discretion to issue a purchase order, and they can be paid.
But if a claim is made, aren't we then authorized to act on it?
If a claim is made by the vendor, yes. You can authorize it be paid. I think that my suggestion would assure payment. I'd hate for the vendor to be castigated because the auditor says they have no basis with which to issue a check.
We owe this money.
We owe the money,
We owe the
yes.
money.
I'm asking just for a clarification that the parts were unbeknown to them. Number one, it would create a work stoppage if we had to stop and secure the parts, and you do need to have these
Okay, what's the easiest way to pay for this? What's the easiest way to pay for this?
What I'm suggesting. If she,
Go ahead and do
I
that.
won't have to put it back on the agenda.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Her suggestion will work, Commissioner, if she's going to get something from the constable and issue appeal.
So do you need any kind of action this morning?
No, no, and we won't have to come back.
All right, thank you.
We just need to remove the motion and the second.
Yes, no action is being requested.
Will you withdraw the motion, Commissioner?
Withdraw my motion.
And the
Double
second?
check with me.
Second. All right.
I didn't know anything about it till this.
Item D.
Requesting authorization for the county judge to execute the fiscal year 2012 equitable sharing agreement and certification report for my office as required by the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Move approve. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guerra? On the district courts?
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the
Right, for the district courts, the 370th District Court is requesting.
Why don't we take up the 398 District Court?
I apologize. Yes.
Judge Flores is
For
here.
the 370th?
No.
Because if you present for the 370th, you can present for me too.
Item
That way,
10B.
whatever R is coming this way, you can get.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge and Commissioners. I'm Aida Salinas Flores. I'm your judge of the 398th District Court. I'm here finally to request a reclassification of a position that has been much needed and that I have requested since February the 23rd of 2011. I was told that I needed to do this before the budget was done in 2011. I submitted all the information back then. It got stalled between Budget Office and Human Resources. I came before Commissioners Court in January of 2012 and it was removed from the agenda. But I'm here today to make sure that Mr. Isidro Sepulveda gets reclassified and gets the proper salary. This is an individual that has been with the county for the last 21 years. He has headed up our indigent defense program since its inception, has saved the county thousands of money, and we have received to this date $7.5 million from the state of Texas with regards to funding. He supervises 6 employees. He works with 11 district courts and 8 county courts at law. He works with the public defender's office. He's implemented schedules to save the county money with regards to billing of misdemeanor cases. He's applied for grants for our public defender's office so we can have a juvenile public defender, so that we can have also a child protective person in the child protective courts, and of course keeping up with all the new trends. And I'm requesting this reclassification of his position as the director for the Indigent Defense Program.
Judge.
Yes, sir.
Did you run this through personnel?
I'm sorry?
Did you go through personnel?
Yes, since 2011.
Esther,
and I think Baltic
would you come forward?
And with Esther also. Because we didn't want to come before the budget office to do any amendments. So we wanted to work, and I have all the letters here that I sent since February of 2011.
What's your position on it, Esther?
Everything that has been requested.
Yeah, can you speak into that?
As requested by the judge, everything as far as HR, it's in order. She's just asking for additional monies for additional duties.
I know what she's asking for. My question is the reclassification procedures were followed through your office?
Yes. It was again submitted in 2012. We submitted it during the budget process, and again, it was tabled.
So it's gone through budget sessions, and I've not been given an explanation why it has been tabled, because I can always come and vouch for this department, because I know that Judge Garcia has met with the Public Defender's Office, has met with us where we can cut services, and we just don't bring in money. We save money by way of making sure that the jail is being monitored, so that we don't have people that should not be in jail stay in the jail's office. So we do a lot of work. And of course, he works with the 11 district courts and the 4, actually the 8 county court at law judges now. Do we have 8? Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes.
And the auditor doesn't have a question, so.
Move for approval. This is not gonna take.
It's not in conflict.
Not with the budget amendment policy, we just passed, right, Valde?
Mr. Guerra.
The policy?
We excluded the judges, I guess. No, we excluded the
Yes, we've brought in fact, we just brought in last November $500,000. So it goes into the general revenue fund. And every day we save taxpayers' money by, appointing the Public Defender's Office to take care of cases in the juvenile courts, in the misdemeanor courts, and in the child welfare office.
I think that really the question that was made was, we just adopted a policy. Can we vote on this particular item in favor of it without violating the policy?
Steve, and that's the question is, where are these funds coming from?
All right.
Where are the funds coming from?
Where are the funds for the increase coming from?
And that's the only question that I had in response to Mr. Palacios' question is, funding is not in place yet.
Yes.
But Budget Office says that what he's waiting now on any item like this, once court approves, that you come back and move the monies, right, Sergio?
Yes. Judge, Commissioners, Judge had asked that we reallocate some of the task force funds that we get from a discretionary grant, that we reallocate those from public defense attorney vouchers to be able to cover this increase. We did have a reduction in vouchers that were submitted for criminal cases. However, we did have an increase on the child welfare cases. So, but that's what the judge is asking, that we use some of these task force funds that they provide the county as discretionary funds to be able to fund this increase from those.
But my question was the policy. Is it okay, Steve?
It depends on where the funds are coming from.
They are general fund funds. Again, these, they are not a special grant, special purpose fund grant. These are general fund dollars.
The question at the end of the day, the question is going to be whether or not there will be an impact to a future budget. Now, if you're saying that the use of the discretionary funds by way of that program, if it's going to wash out, then you're going to have a zero net effect. Then there would be no negative impact for future budgets. Is that correct?
That would be correct. However, the fluctuation in the payments of attorney vouchers fluctuates from year to year. Last year, we had a lot better year than we had in the past. However, they do fluctuate, so I would not be able to, if vouchers start to get on the rise again, we would have a fiscal impact to that budget, yes, sir.
So here also last year, we received from the state of Texas additional funding for the matching of the Indian Defense Grant.
Yes, sir. We usually get additional discretionary funds after the first allocation. After the initial allocation, we do receive supplements to that grant. They have been fairly consistent. However, they're not guaranteed. They could go down at any year.
Right. But last year, I think the county received like an additional $300,000 from the state.
Yes, sir. I believe in September or August of last year.
Right.
Steve, my question, can you all answer my question? Can it be done?
Here's the issue. What the previous policy said is if the funds are coming from where the funds come from, if it's coming from the same department's budget. And two, the second question is that Sergio is trying to answer is, would it have an impact on future budget years? What Sergio has answered, if I understood him correctly, is it could if the amount, if the discretionary voucher funds go down, then that money, the difference would be taken from general fund. If that's the case, if that happened, then it would not be permissible under the policy. Now, the other side of it is if those discretionary voucher funds stay at their same level, then it would be permissible.
What's the chance of it staying on the same level? Pretty high.
There is no guarantee that the discretionary funds are going to be the same level because they're on a formula. It depends how much we spend, and if we spend more, they give us more. If we spend less, they give us less.
It could go high, it could go up, it could go down, it could stay the same.
But we get a hefty amount. Like since we started the program, we've had $7.2 million that has gone into the general revenue for the operation of our indigent defense program. And in addition to that, money that you don't see is money that is saved by, monitoring the jail population, by providing public defender's office to take care of cases on a more economical value than on the voucher system, and we've done that. But the monies go into the general fund, and this is a reclassification. It is something that should have been with the budget office and taken care of since 2011. I'm not asking for back pay or retroactive pay on this employee, but he certainly deserves the reclassification.
We're going to go with what you said. We're not going to change. So I second it.
Yes. Again, we do anticipate that, as I mentioned, they have been fairly constant. These grant funds have been fairly constant. We have started to see a decreased trend on the expenditures of the criminal public defense cases. They have reduced significantly. We would recommend approval on this.
Yeah, because she's been here twice before. This is the third time.
Yes, this is the third time. Yes.
And what you're saying is this will not have a fiscal impact on current or future?
We would reduce that line item from the attorney vouchers, yes, sir. The court cost and investigation fee line item.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
You'll bring that back later?
Yes, sir. We'll bring the transfer back next week.
There's also another item in the agenda, and I'm always pitch hitting for the Public Defender's Office. And since the creation of County Court at Law Number 8, there is a need for a Public Defender's Office attorney to man that court. And that's on the agenda for today. So the court would ask if the court wants to consider that item. I think we have somebody from the Public Defender's Office.
19A, Judge.
19A.
Right, Public Defender's Office.
Public Defender's Office. And
19A.
what these individuals do is they work with the county courts at law that have the criminal cases, and they're there all the time. And if they're there, then they eliminate attorney voucher appointments and saves the county money by having the public defender man that court.
The request is for a Public Defender or a Public Defender 2, and that would be slot 0018, and that would be at a budgeted salary of $50,487. They do also have the interdepartmental transfer and revised salary schedule
For approval 19A 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge.
God bless.
All right, let's move back to item 16A.
16A?
How about 10A?
10A.
10A?
I'm sorry, 10A.
Oh, 10A. Yes, Judge, 10A, it's the same request, but in this particular case, it is a total wash. If I'm not mistaken, Sergio, when the salaries were set by the Board of Judges for the court reporters.
Correct, sir.
The judge for the 370th, Judge Noe Gonzalez, reset that salary at a lesser amount. If my information is correct, he had he replaced the court reporter position, but set it at a lesser amount, and he's taking the savings from that position and distributing to these three slots here: 002, 0003, and 0004. Correct me if my math is incorrect, $7,776?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it is a wash, it is from within, it was already budgeted within his, it would not.
It would
right.
be in accordance with the policy, as there is
policy.
no fiscal impact for this
Move
budget or
approval.
future budgets.
10A 1
And 2?
and 2.
And 2.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, 11.
11A, Judge Commissioners, it's under Civil Service, requesting approval to process the following invoice as a claim with authority for the county treasurer to issue payment after review, audit, and processing procedures are completed by the county auditor.
This is for $200. Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Esther, we need your opinion on all these different human resources issues.
Okay.
And
Well,
we
some
got
of these
another one
items are
coming
being
up right
placed
now.
by other, like the executive officer, they're being placed on here without giving me at least a courtesy to know that they're on here so I can review them.
All right, well, you
And
may
some of
want
the
to
information is submitted to me late.
work on some kind of a policy that we could look at and consider that would put you in the loop, because
Okay.
you're a very important part of this. But you need to get more involved.
Well, I would recommend that they give at least a week or 2-week notice to submit them to HR, and then we place them on the agenda. But they're being placed
Well,
on the
put
agenda.
it down on a proposed policy, yes.
Better yet, if we have a standing item on the agenda, just like we do with purchasing, have one that deals with
Human resources? Yep. And everybody has to come in under that.
Right. Actually, Judge Commissioners, my office sent out correspondence last year, and I believe the year before last, advising all elected officials and department heads that any HR-related issues, albeit an adjustment or just in general, questions about an employee and whether or not they're falling within whatever guidelines they'd like to take some type of action, that they begin and end at HR prior to any action being taken. With the court's permission, then I will resend that letter, but it'll be a little more specific within that correspondence. But that communication's already been sent countywide to the officials and the departments.
I think the court needs an update on a lot of information regarding personnel in terms of vacancies,
right?
All of anything dealing with HR, and we should get.
We need to get a report from our HR director.
On a regular basis.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Better put it under the.
Esther.
Yeah.
And if we have to vote on it before that letter goes out, put it on for next week.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
Well,
thank you, Mr.
Judge Court, Commissioners, I'll ask for a couple of weeks. I'd like to get with Esther's office
All right, sir.
and legal. Thank you.
Item 12, our county clerk's office.
Judge, Commissioners, good morning. Annette Muñiz, Chief Deputy for Arturo Guajardo, Hidalgo County Clerk. We are here, basically this is more of a correction than anything else that we've been trying to get done for the past couple of years. The original approval was done on December 28th of 2008, that the salaries were set at $27,000 for our deputy clerks. However, when we went into the step and grade in 2010, those salaries were changed. We were working with the budget office to get this corrected, but because there was two different things going on at the same time, we had to, Mr. Guajardo went ahead and refrained from getting these corrections done until it was settled about the step and grade. We did submit this back in early December, but it got postponed to December 28th. It went on December 28th, but again, it got tabled to January the 8th, which it was not put on Commissioner's Court, so we're here now trying to get this correction done.
Sergio. We go back to the same question. Is it going to affect this year?
Yes, this item would affect this year's budget and subsequent budgets to the tune of $17,708.
We just heard that 2 years ago, it was adopted, a motion, I guess, was adopted to make the salary $27,000.
It was adopted in 2008 when Mr. Guajardo was going to try to make it here right now. In 2010, when the step and grade was done, the county clerk's office lost $80,000 because of the step and grade. We gave up 3% of our budget as requested by the court. So,
why were the employees not paid $27,000 when it was adopted and approved for them to get $27,000?
Because they went to the step and grade. Step prep one went to 26.
You started them off at lower and moved them up.
Well, when we were set at 27, as ruled by Mr. Guajardo, we would start our employees, 25 or 26, not automatically, and then we adopted the step and grade and it went down to 23. So as a result of all of this, we're losing a lot of employees, we're losing a lot of money because we go through all this training, and as you know, Judge, because you deal with our office, the clerks handle a lot of information regarding the courts, regarding legal documents, and it just, so this is why Mr. Guajardo wanted to bring this back and get this corrected.
This is all clerk ones. That's why they affected them.
It's what?
Yeah, they're all clerk ones, right?
Yes.
So actually, when the stepping grade got implemented, they went from to 23 something or 26?
The budgeted salary from, when we implemented the step and grade, the budgeted salaries went from $27,000 to, I believe, $25,500.
So they actually lost money.
They actually lost about $1,500 each of those items.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying that the employee's salary was reduced?
No, sir.
No,
just the budgeted amount for that employee. If they were making $25,000 at that time, they were moved to the $25,500. However, now the department did not have the discretion to do a change of status and move them to 27. They had to stay in that step until a merit increase would be allotted. However, there were no merit increases, so they were never able to move them back up to the 27 that they had originally been budgeted for.
If legally it can be done and it's not in conflict with the policy, I don't see a problem.
Sergio, can you answer those two questions?
This would be in conflict with the policy because we no longer have those budgeted amounts that we had back in 2008. We reset the budget back in 2010 to the lower amounts. So the 2011 budget and 2012 budget and 2013 budgets, we've always been using the lower budgeted amounts. So those funds are no longer within their budget.
However, Judge, they were set lower based on the step and grade, which we no longer have. At the time that we got the step and grade, the positions were filled, so it wasn't, and it was an oversight on my part that we did not notice the impact that it was going to have lowering all these salaries. We have, since the time that the step and grade went into trying to get this corrected, but because we had the step and grade going on, we kind of refrained, went along with it until there was a final decision made on the step and grade, which didn't happen until during the budget process, which is why we couldn't get it corrected during the budget process either.
Does the 26,014, does it have the 3% increase that we gave, the COLA?
That includes the 3%, yes.
Yes.
All right, what's the wishes of the commissioners?
What's your recommendation? It's in conflict with policy.
They're going to have to grant the waiver?
Excuse me?
They're going to have to grant the waiver to the policy that was just adopted?
And again, while we respect all policies and however, this was placed on December 28th when, you know, so at the same, and it was supposed to be put on again on January the 8th. For whatever reason, it wasn't put on till today, and today we see that the policy is put into place, so it's kind of put us in a difficult position. Of course, we will follow whatever the court decides.
And how long have you been trying to get this in place?
For at least the past couple of 2 years since we were on the step and grade. Mr. Guajardo has been working very closely with the budget office. Again, he took a leadership role in the step and grade.
Yes, he did, and he also was really one of the departments to step forward and decrease his budget by, what was it?
3%. And again, that same year that we lost the 3%, because of the step and grade, we lost over $80,000 to our budget. So, I mean, and there's always been the sweeps, you know, every quarter from our office, so the money's always being put back.
So actually, if we approve this, the entry for this Deputy 1 clerks will be 27,000, anybody that, if you have an opening? Or will it start at 27,000 or what? Say tomorrow you have another opening.
Oh, I didn't know if you were asking us. If we have a position open tomorrow, it will not start at 27. Mr. Guajardo usually gives them, you know, a little bit of time to get them, you know, I guess as a probationary period, something that we have done for the past 10 years. And then we gradually take them up to the 27.
But the budget amount would be 27.
Would be 27.
You would have like a 3-month probation or so.
Right. And the money, of course, that's not used is swept back by the budget office.
What's the total amount that it will?
15.
No?
7,000.
Oh, y'all always sweep more.
Sergio, what's the total amount that on this impact?
$17,708.
17?
17,713. 17. And that's the, I believe, the annual amount, not the prorated amount.
The prorated
for 2014.
Because I've got 13.
But I don't think it included all the ones. It only included
Oh,
the
okay.
61. Then we
Okay.
added 72 to 75.
Okay.
So, but there are 21 positions that are being adjusted at roughly about
Well,
$1,000.
the second part is out of the archive account.
Yes, the other funds are from the.
Also,
ARPA.
you're only talking about the A1?
Right now, it's
17,000?
only A1, yes, sir. A2, again, would not be in conflict with the policy because they do have reserve funds.
Right.
I believe they have over,
That's what the reserve funds are
$1 million.
for records archive.
yeah, over $1 million that they have within those record archives that they can utilize for item number 2. It's only item 12A1 that would be in conflict.
What's the wishes of the court on this item 12A? If you want to approve it, we're going to have to waive our policy we just passed this morning. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If not, we would have to wait till budget time.
Right.
Yeah, but we tell them that, but we don't do it, right?
Or you can wait until there's a sweep. Can you do a sweep and then fund them?
If that's which is the court, yes, we could.
The what?
Mr. Frasso mentioned if we could wait till after the first quarter sweep, I just said if that's the wish of the court.
Yeah, but
We would bring back the waiver at that time.
But keep her in mind. You know, she's been here since 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that we keep getting, you know, postponed and, you know, we'll get to the budget process again and again get postponed. And in the meantime, we're losing clerks and that makes it very difficult to function.
And Mr. Guajardo has been very actively involved in trying to help the court come up with the proper compensation plan.
You know, you know, I have to say, he's always worked within his budget for whatever's done in our office. It's very rare that we come and request anything outside of our budget.
If this happens, you don't have to adjust the budget.
On this one here.
For that particular item?
Yeah.
No, I believe the auditor would require us to fund the full amount of the salaries for the remainder of the fiscal year. Is that correct, Mr. Professor?
Yes, you need the funding for the entire
By
year.
statutes, we would have to fund the full 100%. Since we don't have a salary fund per se, we always designate the individual fund as a salary fund, so we would have to fund 100% of the salaries.
That applies to the total budget.
I heard somebody say a while ago there was over $1 million on
Well, the whole 17,000 had to be funded.
the other ones.
That's in the
On the
archive.
other ones, yes, on the archive.
Out of the existing budget.
Gentlemen, it's a $17,000
Yeah,
issue.
Somewhere.
yeah, from the existing budget, it could be done.
Also, you're saying for them to fund it out of supplies or some other line
Well,
item?
whatever, out of their budget.
Okay.
Do you have the resources within your budget to move around?
You're asking,
Yes.
I would have to go back and check. I mean, it's very possible. We've done that in the past. Last year, we were able to get new furniture for all our criminal clerks, and we did it within our budget. I mean, we always work that way.
Yes.
She might.
It's there.
Right,
The budget, without
We
adjusting.
could move a little bit of the money from this item to that one. It'd be easy.
Because the auditor won't let us.
Put you in jail.
Those need to be 100%?
Well, depending on what these clerks do, no.
Oh.
It cannot be used for these
It
clerks.
cannot be used.
It would depending on the function, yes.
Yeah.
The function of the employee.
If you feel like you can move some of those items around to come up with a 17,000, and then we can,
Worry about it later.
yeah, take care of it at the next budget cycle, which is almost here.
By September.
Okay. So if we're able to work it within our budget, then,
Right,
okay.
We can approve this subject to that, right?
right. That way it will not affect the policy we just passed.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll bring the
Move
line item
approval.
transfer next week to court for approval. We'll bring the line item transfer from within their operating
So
to,
no action today then?
if court wants to take action on this, we'll bring the funding back next week.
Right now, there's no funding in place for all those items, so what he's doing, once we approve, then he comes back later
Yeah.
on and funds it.
Right.
And so we'll go ahead and approve it like that.
All right, need a motion and a second? Need a second?
Yeah, second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
There's 1 and 2, right, Judge?
Well, one doesn't impact the ones, they have money on that account, on that.
Right,
No,
on,
on that action, 1 and 2, it's the action and the revised salary schedule.
Yeah, the number 2 is approval of the revised salary schedule.
Yes.
All right, the next item?
and on the next item, it is basically the same thing. However, those salaries come from our archive account, the county clerk's archive account. So
That
there would
shouldn't
be
be any
no
problem.
budget
That
impact.
should be
Move for approval?
Second.
Those
On 1 and
in
2.
those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
And it's also subject to funding, Mr. Chairman.
No, that was.
Yes, sir, we'll come back and bring that
Yeah.
item as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Item 13, Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. 4 items. on the
Morning,
agenda.
sir.
Item A is requesting approval of partial payment for invoice 9431 in the amount of $520 for hand-lawn recharge for fire extinguishers.
Need a motion to approve?
Move for approval?
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, pursuant to Hidalgo County Cellular Telephone Policy, Contract DIR-SDD-1780, presentation for consideration and acceptance and approval of cellular phone request forms, data card requests for the following. 1, approval for requisition 229419 for 33 unlimited data access air card connections for modems at $37.99 each per month. Those are for our mobile units so that they can communicate with our Spillman system.
Move for approval?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C, discussion approval of and authorization for county auditor to pay invoice number WIECO 28702 for Holt Cat for $1,483.81 as submitted by vendor. That's
It's got to be a generator. Right?
Excuse me?
I don't think it's a dozer.
Generator. That's what I have here.
We have a concern, comment on that particular item, Judge.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, sir.
So we have a concern on this particular item, and it comes up every time that we get an invoice from this vendor. Your office requests a quote, and you get a purchase order that matches the quote. However, when we get the invoice, it's not broken down the way that the quote was given to you and the purchase order reads. And we would like for the invoice to be broken down so that we can do the auditing of the quote that you received.
Yes, this is an item that's been brought to your attention before. I understand that you dealt with it the last time and did approve it. This is for repairs done to the existing generator that we have, and it is a safety issue. The whole corporation
The
is...
problem here, Mr. Officer, is that once it breaks down, you can't wait. You got to go get the parts. If you wait for a PO, it can take a while.
Well, one way to fix it is to get a quote, a lump sum quote, and a lump sum PO, and then you get a lump sum invoice and we pay it.
Well, in this instance, sir, Holt Corporation is the only company that works on that particular model.
No, I understand, but
so
the issue comes up every time for this invoice. And
now they did provide. They did
You know,
provide in their.
The only way you can do this is have an open invoice. I mean, and you just keep it in file somewhere, because if your generator goes off today and your power goes off today, I mean, how are you going to keep that jail alight?
They go through a process, Commissioner, where they get a quote. The quote is broken down, and then the purchase order is also broken down.
So what you need is an itemized invoice.
It's not, well, I'm asking for an itemized invoice, and this is the solution would be to get a lump sum quote and a lump sum purchase order. So when you get a lump sum invoice, then we pay it, and there's no problem.
Well, from what I understand, sir, they do provide an itemized bill of what they're going to do. Now, this, as the Commissioner was indicating, is something that some foreseen and does pop up. We have contacted the Holt company. That is what they've provided. And, you know, this is a safety issue. We must address it. You know.
Unless there's any need for further questioning, I entertain a motion to
Move for
approve.
approval.
Need a second? Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item D, requesting approval of payment for invoice number T493556 in the amount of $143,063 to CDW Government.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Judge, also
Thank
we have a concern with that particular item. I believe that the office has exceeded the $50,000 purchases of those particular goods and services. So you have to go through a competitive bidding process. I don't know if the purchasing department can assist in this here or has any comment regarding that.
On which one, on D?
On D, yeah.
For $143?
Yeah.
What it was, sir, is on November 2012, we had a fusing assembly kit was purchased as an open market item utilizing PO number 683762. However, the NIGP code number 2772 utilized had already exceeded the limit of the amount of 50,000.
Correct, but of the 200 and something thousand that you're saying, there was a total purchase of about 260 plus. Of the 260 plus, 6,000 of it is the only thing that's open market. Everything else is under co-op purchase. However, this is a maintenance kit. It shouldn't be categorized or coded under the two that we usually use. We discussed it this morning with the staff. We believe we're going to present a code that will be most appropriate for this item, and I think we'll be fine on it.
Okay, so you're
Okay?
recommending?
So I'm recommending no action so that we can recode it with the correct code, and that should not conflict with anything.
No action on D then?
Right. We'll work with you on it. Okay?
Thank you, Marty.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Item 14, Health Department.
Judge, Commissioners, item 14A and B, there's no action.
14A and B, no action.
Right.
Item 15, we've already acted.
16.
Item 16, Urban County.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners.
Good morning, ma'am.
Our first item on the agenda is a request for exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262.024A4 for professional surveying services.
Need a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay. The second portion is a presentation of the scoring grid for the purposes of ranking by Commissioners Court of 3 engineering firms approved from the approved pool was graded and evaluated by Precinct 4, the Urban County Program, and Purchasing Department staff. The 3 firms evaluated were Dos Land Surveying with a grade of 96.66, Quintanilla Hetley and Associates with a grade of 95%, and Sames Incorporated with a grade of 91%. This is for a disaster recovery project known as the Alberta Drain. Would you like to rank them in that order?
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The second portion, number 2, is the authority to negotiate a professional surveying service contract with the number 1 ranked firm of Dos Land Surveying.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Item B is requesting the approval to amend the 2009 Community-Based Development Organization Agreement for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program known as the NSP between the County of Hidalgo, the Urban County Program, and Proyecto Azteca, a nonprofit corporation. The agreement would increase their existing contract by $50,000, thereby providing Proyecto Azteca with $781,100 for this contract.
Move for approval.
Second.
Has legal reviewed this?
The actual agreement, no. The agreement actually was reviewed. The addendum to add $50,000 was not. It is the basic language that we use on all of them, and all we have is the one page that says increasing existing contract by $50,000, allowing for the new total amount.
And the money's coming from the government?
The existing neighborhood stabilization program.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, with this additional $50,000 on that item B, it would allow the county to provide assistance to 1 additional family. So we'd rather give up this money instead of HUD taking it from us and make sure that another family gets assistance. Item C is a request on behalf of the City of Progreso, requesting consideration and action to award and enter into a construction contract with 2GS LLC for a street improvement project within the City of Progreso. The contract amount would be $485,154.95, and this would be utilizing the funding set aside for the City of Progreso with the years 2010, 11, and 12.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D is discussion, consideration, and approval of the following personnel actions. The first request is to delete 1 position, 0007, known as a compliance monitor at a salary of $49,834, and to create a monitor 3 position at a salary of $52,002.
This is a vacant position?
These are vacant. This is a vacant position, yes, sir.
This is from your own budget?
From our own budget.
No problem, I see.
Not if it doesn't affect general fund.
All right, move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D2 is the approval of the revised salary schedule.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Our final item is a request on behalf of Precinct 3, requesting the approval from the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court to enter into an interlocal agreement with Hidalgo County Irrigation District in the amount of $46,305.
Move for approval.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
On that particular item, there's not a project cited there?
The what?
A project that these funds are going to be utilized for?
It's going to be for an urban county project on 2-mile line between Abram and 492,
Yes, sir, that is identified in the background. This is from 492 to La Homa, utilizing the urban county funds, and this is for the purchase and installation of 21 crossings on Mile 2.
The effective date is starting today?
The approval is effective today so that I can have funding available for the irrigation district.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 17, our juvenile probation.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners. Ricardo Guerrero on behalf of Buddy Silva, Juvenile Probation Department. Items 1, 2, and 3 are interrelated. Item 1 is approval to apply for a juvenile accountability block grant for the 2013 from the Governor's Criminal Justice Division. 2 is to authorize the county judge to sign it electronically. And 3 is to approve the resolution to apply for the juvenile accountability block grant.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries. Yes, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 18, our Head Start program. Good morning, Ms. Flores.
Good morning. On item 18, we have letter A, discussion and approval of the self-assessment schedule. That's a mandated activity for the Head Start program, and we have participation of staff. All of our centers are visited, and we're trying to determine compliance with all our standards. It's an open invitation for any member of the Commissioners Court to join any group at any time during the time we have it, January the 28th through February the 8th.
Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
B, discussion and approval on request of amendment number 1 to agreement C12-022-0808 between Hidalgo County and the estate of Luis E. Ortiz for classroom space in City of Mission, where the lesser desires to lease for an additional 2 months at the same terms and conditions. That's the building we're using because of the movement of the building. It's late, it's running late. And so we're anticipating that in a couple of months it should be completed.
What is the effective date of this amendment?
Pardon?
The effective date of the amendment is today?
It would be as of the end of January.
It'll be today.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Was this January 31, you said?
Pardon?
No, the effective date is today. It's the date of approval.
Okay.
Item C.
C, discussion approval on request to purchase classroom teaching aid supplies and equipment through the Hidalgo County's membership participation with the Texas Association School Boards, TASB, by boards multiple of awarded vendors for the term of the TASB contract expiring 10/31/15. And
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
next item, discussion approval to request to enter into a 36-month new copier lease agreement for 55 copiers through Hidalgo County's membership participation in the State of Texas Department of Information Resources, DIR, awarded vendor, Kyocera Document Solutions America Incorporated, DIR contract DIRSDD 1664. And that's for copiers in our centers and as well as our administration building.
Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Next item is discussion and approval to purchase office supplies through the Hidalgo County's membership participation with the Texas Association of School Boards, TASB, by boards multiple awarded vendors for the term of the TASB contract expiring on 10/31/15. And we have the list of vendors there: Gulf Coast Paper Company and Staples Contract and Commercial, Inc.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Item F, request approval of application and certificate for payment number 4 in the amount of $34,149.31 submitted by Del Sol Homes LLC, awarded contractor, pursuant to action taken by Commissioners Court on 10/23/12 for proposed building relocation Palmview 1 Center, and as certified by the project architect, Denenbaum Engineering Company, McAllen LLC. And I don't know if you can take both of them at the same time. It's payment number 4 and payment number 3. It's the exact same wording, except the amount for payment number 3 is $27,825.75.
Need a motion to approve? Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Okay, so both F and G are being approved?
They were together, right? They're both F and G, Judge?
I believe that's what the motion.
They were together, right?
The motion was F and G together.
All right, which one do you need action
We did
on?
the first one, and then I said, do you want to include the second one except the amount? And then payment number is different, but the rest of the...
Let's just go ahead and approve that second one.
Okay, second one. Okay, letter G.
Need a second? Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay, so now both are approved, right? Okay, thank you.
Item 20, our WIC program.
On item 20A, this is approval to make payment for the following invoice to Antonio Esparza, MD, in the amount of $27.72 for lease of office space the month of January 2013, with authority for the county treasurer to issue payment after the protocol on auditing is completed. What occurred here is there was a 60-day grace period extension before we awarded the new contract for WIC. That was December 18th of 2012. There is no, there's no holdover provision on that lease. The new vendor had 120 days in which to make the renovations to the new building. So what's happened is there's a lapse in an agreement between the old vendor and the moving in to the new vendor, and the new vendor is still compliant with the terms of their agreement to make the renovations before February. So we're asking for the payment of that 1 month's rent at this point.
Second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And Sergio will take care of the item B.
Item 20B is approval to amend the program, attachment number 1 to contract 2012-041053, the Nutritional Physical Activity and Obesity Prevention Grant between the Department of State of Health Services and Hidalgo County Health and Human Services, effective on 12/11/2012. This is for modification to the statement of work.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge Commissioners.
Morning, sir.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners. Raul Cecin, Planning Administrator. Just one item, the agenda reimbursement cash deposit, Cardinal Lake subdivision. Back in December 28th, the developer deposited with the county $129,570.89 for the paving improvements, fence buffer, street testing, fire hydrants, and septic tanks. Since then, he's installed the septic tanks, and he's requesting a drawdown on that cash reimbursement of $34,350, which reflects installation of all the septic tanks, leaving a balance of $95,220.98. We have the letter from health, and we've done our inspection. Everything's in order. It's in order, yes, sir. We recommend reimbursement of that amount.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item 23.
Good afternoon, Martha Salazar for purchasing. We start with item A12, A, B, and C inclusive. No action to take or reports to be given. Going to item 3, we're requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262-024A6, any land or right-of-way. I need the exemption, please.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 2 is approval to enter into a lease agreement subject to legal's final review between Hidalgo County and Joey Garcia for the purpose of housing the 430th District Court, the building located at 323 West Cano, Edinburgh, Texas, for an initial 2-year term with the county's sole option to renew and extend for an additional 2-year term. This would be at $1.20. We are currently paying $1.85. We have negotiated it down to $1.20 a square foot.
Move for approval.
Second. Marty, the agreement doesn't state the rental fee.
It's $1.20 a square foot for 5,000. I think the backup reflects 605 square feet.
Is the monthly fee stated in the agreement?
We're going to be we're going to be filling that in. It's that we were still negotiating on Friday when we did get a verbal agreement to 120, the reduction to 120. And I know the funding will need to be addressed by DBM, as we only have 3 months, as you noted. But they will, because there still was the issue whether the 430th would stay where it was or be moved somewhere at the courthouse.
What about the exhibit? There was
Exhibits A and B will be in the final version that will be reviewed by legal counsel, but it is the exact form of agreement that legal counsel has approved in the past. It will still have a signature when we do have it executed.
Because the action that you request from the court
Subject to those, to A and D,
approval?
sure.
And Judge, Commissioners, if I may, because I know that there was, I believe, one of the owls that signed up on this very issue, but she's not here anymore.
Well, no, this lady is here.
All right. You want to make a comment?
The question the owls had was, since you're adding the new 8 courtrooms or modulars over there, why is this not in one of the modulars?
Because the modulars are already going to be occupied.
All right, so this is just additional space.
Well, this is space that we were going to be moving one of the county courts at law. We're trying to find a space for them on the 3rd floor so that we could move the 430th to the 2nd floor, but it just wasn't practical. That forced us to negotiate a new lease agreement with where presently the 430th is located.
So the 430th will be in this building?
We'll stay
where it's at right now.
Where it's at.
Yes.
Okay. It's the same building that it's at.
All right, thank you.
With a
So we have a
reduced
motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And we are recommending to take no action on B. This is much more in our favor to go with a brand-new lease than to renew the existing lease. So no action is recommended on item B.
Item 4.
Item 4 is presentation for consideration and approvals in connection with bank depository and/or remittance processing lockbox agreement, including but not limited to A, authority to advertise the bank depository and/or remittance process lockbox agreement pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 116.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
B, approval of the proposed advertising dates for the bank depository and/or remittance process lockbox agreement specification packets, subject to legal review, and therefore the publication dates proposed are, it's either going to be option 1 or 2. I recommend option 2, which is February 2nd, 9th, and 16th, with acceptance date for bank applications to be at Commissioners Court meeting of March the 5th, 2013.
Okay, move for approval on that one.
B2.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
No action on B1. Item C, appointment or designation of evaluation committee to score and evaluate the bank depository remittance process lockbox bank application. Let me give you some notes on that. It has been, the historic has been to allow the Dowd County Investment Committee with that task. That's comprised of the county treasurer, the county judge, and the budget officer, including the purchasing department and county tax assessor as consultants to the evaluation committee. In the recent past, though, the county judge has chosen not to participate in the evaluation committee inasmuch as he's a member of the commission, which will be voting on that depository application.
Well, put me back in.
You want to be made? Okay.
Right.
All right. So then it would be the ones that I mentioned. It'll be a member of 5. Which would be the county treasurer, the county judge, and the budget officer. Is that correct? Purchasing and the tax assessor is just used as a consultant. Did you?
It's only going to be 3 votes.
It'll be 4. I will be included. The county tax assessor usually gives us input as to what they may want us to consider in the evaluation process. But he can be made part of the committee if you wish it to be 5.
Will he be an advisor only, Marty? There's no, he's not going to grade? He's only going to be an
It's
advisor?
up to them whether they wish it to be a voting member or not. That in the past is what I was giving Commissioner Flores to understand. He's been there as a consultant to the committee. Now, if you all wish for the tax assessor to become a voting member, it'll be a panel of 5, purchasing and the tax assessor being the other 2.
So right now you have the county judge?
The committee, the investment committee, the treasurer, the budget officer, and the judge himself.
Whatever we've been doing for the last several years.
Whatever the statute allows, I mean, I'm sure it's.
No, the statute doesn't speak to the evaluation committee. It just has been the historic. Since the treasurer is the investment committee chair, it's
I
been
just
that.
feel like you need an odd number if you're going to, you know,
Okay,
to
we
avoid
can
a
make
tie.
it the 3. And the tax office and myself are there to consult and give any guidance that is necessary. So
All
it's
right.
3.
Very
Okay.
good.
So that will be the decision of the court. We will go then with item, I just gave you the notes, so it's going to be the county judge, the county treasurer, and the budget officer.
Judge, Commissioners, with your permission, I'd like to attend, not as a voting member.
Sure.
But just to attend. And,
Certainly.
Since it's a county-wide issue, it affects us.
Yes.
That way my office can.
Yeah,
Mr. Guevara
certainly.
will be included in those 3 consulting positions. Okay?
3 graders and 3 advisors?
Correct.
Okay.
Item
Thank you.
5, acceptance
Don't
of...
need action on that one?
Yes, we need to
Appointment of
approve the
designation
committee.
evaluation committee.
Move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 5A is acceptance and approval to utilize through the Department of Information Resources contract number 005 between the state of Texas acting by and through the department, the DIR, and AT&T Corporation, thus allowing Hidalgo County to utilize services offered under that contract.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item B is acceptance and approval of IT Department's request to migrate the county's existing T1 lines to the DIR contract 005, allowing the billing services to be provided by DIR to the county.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
B1 for Precinct 1, requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262-024A, a professional service.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Presentation of scoring grid for the purposes of ranking the sole member of the county's approved pool of professional review appraisal service providers as qualified to continue to the next step, and that is HLH Appraisal Services.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C is for the purchasing department to negotiate a professional review appraisal services contract with the qualified firm of HLH.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Pursuant to Texas Local Government Code 262-031, and in the interest of expediting a project's progress, requesting authority and approval for Commissioner Precinct 2 or his designee to execute change orders that involve an increase or decrease of cost of $50,000 or less. The original contract price may not be decreased by more than 18% or increased by more than 25% of the overall contract. I believe the auditor is asking for the designee.
Yeah.
Do we
was
have
wondering
that
who the
name?
designee would be.
Mr. Silguero? Do we have the name of the designee?
I believe, ma'am, that the intent there was to have that on a specific project, the East Minnesota. I think they go on a specific project.
But who will be the designee if not himself?
Commissioner or
Just
myself?
Or Mr. Raul Silguero. That would be the designee. No, they just wanted the name of the
Okay.
designee.
Move for approval.
Need a second?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D1, this is requesting approval for Commissioners Court of an exception to Hidalgo County's purchasing policies and procedures that requires at least 3 quotes for requisitions of $1,000 but less than 5 for DiTech human interface devices, which were purchased through Hamer at $4,500, as we were unable to get 3 equal quotes, but attempts, in my opinion, by the department and confirming by us, show a due diligence on the part of that particular situation to permit the issuance of the PO.
Marty, is that for only A, or, because I have concern on C?
No, it's going to, C is going to, no, C is countywide.
Need a motion?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Acceptance and approval of invoice number 2194 through PO number 679807 dated August 31st, 2012 in the amount of $4,500 to Hamer for the item discussed in A above.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
On item C, I'm requesting and recommending to the court accept and approve and adopt the following changes to applicable Articles 8.02 and 8.03 under the current Hidalgo County's purchasing policies and procedures, effective today, January 22nd, 2013, to reflect the addition of the item of D below. D below would be unless the purchasing agent determines and states in writing that the required 3 verbal, telephone, or written quotes could not be obtained and that due diligence was attempted and demonstrated by the department. That would be a call on my part after reviewing the circumstances of the purchase, any time constraints that may have been involved, the fact that it may be a co-op purchase and thus we don't need additional quotes because it's compliant to begin with. I believe that we'll avoid some of the items that we're placing on the agenda for your consideration, and this would be county-wide. I will bring to the court's attention that neither the state nor the federal government requires. We do this as an extra due diligent option on our part and better business practice, but the practice will remain that 3 quotes will still be required, but in those circumstances where it's not feasible for reasons that I will determine, we will proceed with less than 3.
There's a bill of sale for SBA tower.
And the point of information that, or the clarification that we have is what documentation will be required for you to be able to determine that?
It would just be determined on whatever in writing I give you will be the rationale for permitting to less than 3. And if you will read what I'm giving you also as backup on and post it, an authorized personnel shall complete, and that was in the old manual system. Of course, we have an electronic requisitioning system. It says, and include the listing of at least 3 potential suppliers. Sometimes we may have potential suppliers, but at that time may not have inventory. They may not be able to service the labor part or the programming part. So I'm recommending that we make this change to our policies. I think it'll make a more efficient and smoother operation.
But I think that the issue that we have is trying to figure out is what kind of documentation you're going to have. For example, you're going to say that they're attempted to solicit 3 quotes. They couldn't get any good quotes.
We couldn't get any quotes. If you'll recall that what prompted this has been going on for quite a while. About 1.5 years ago, we had the situation with the district attorney's office trying to solicit, it was HIDCO, I'm sorry, trying to solicit quotes on programming needs on a special software that they had. We went to 8 vendors. 8 vendors would not, flat out would tell us, I'm not going to give you a quote. I may be able to do it, but I'm not going to because I don't feel comfortable doing it. At what point is due diligence practiced? It was 8 vendors. And I believe that it'll have to be my call to give you supporting rationale for that decision.
All right.
It's not going to be a blank check.
Entertain a motion. You're saying that the supporting documentation will be that
provided.
There are attempts that they made to get those quotes? Okay.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
E1, this is for the Sheriff's Office, presentation by awarded vendor OE Investments Limited on acquisition of company in connection to contract number 205 La Jolla Tower Site as of August 16, 2012, pursuant to the date of bill of sale by SBA Towers SBA Towers 4 LLC.
Are those the security towers that?
It's the radio tower.
Radio tower.
It's a radio frequency tower.
Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
Right.
Need a motion to approve?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item F1, under countywide, approval to reassign an evaluation committee member under the new Commissioner Precinct 1 for the purpose of evaluating the proposals received for Section 125 voluntary insurance products for Hidalgo County.
I'm going to approve appoint Raul Lozano.
Thank you, Commissioner. I need action on that.
Move approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this point in time, pursuant to 551, 071, and 072, we'll entertain a motion to proceed to executive session.
Move approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. It's 12:25. We'll be in executive session.
A and B, A, real estate, no action. Acquisition, item 25B, pending potential, no action. Item C, claim of Porfirio Sauceda. Judge, Commissioners, I'd like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $240.32.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 25D will proceed as directed, and that would be Marisela Gutierrez versus County of Hidalgo. And item 25E, Judge, Commissioners, I'd like to state for the record that Ms. Josie Ramirez's office will continue and finalize the claim of Rosalio Espinosa.
All right. Nothing else?
No, sir, that is all I have.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Move for approval.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.